All right, all right. I am your host, Conservative Brother Daily, or Conservative Brother. I don't know if you guys still hear some music. Conspiracy Brother, I don't know if we could cut that music off. Pastor Green, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, good. Blessed and highly favored. Welcome back, everybody, to Uncomfy Truths. I'm going to try my best to talk over the music. We got Conspiracy Brother. He's working in the background today, multitasking, has a few things going on. All right, thank you. Welcome, everybody, to Uncomfy Truths. Conspiracy Brother, I don't know if you want to say something real quick or if you want to stay in the background.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, all right. Welcome back, everyone, to Uncomfy Truths, episode 52. I am your co-host, Conservative Brother, joined by Pastor William Green, and of course, Conspiracy Brother. Like I mentioned, he's going to be working more of the background today. But obviously, we got a lot to talk about. It's been a crazy couple weeks. Obviously, big elephant in the room, Charlie Kirk, assassination, developments. The funeral service is actually today. I was actually just watching the rest of it. President Trump was coming on right as I was hopping on the studio portal. So we got a lot to talk about with that. So really quick, I'll kick it off. So Pastor Green, I wanted to, I guess, kick off to our opening words. So remember, stay awake, not woke. Just because we're paranoid doesn't mean we're wrong. Keep thinking for yourself, and remember, if somebody else won't say it, then we will. You may have noticed this was actually our first thumbnail that we had set up for the show. Obviously, a lot's been going on since our last uh, show, so I had to expand the thumbnail and give it a few more. So I wanted to kind of let you guys know it's kind of like our side A version, and then we also had the side B version of episode 52 because a lot going on, a lot of topics, especially the Charlie Kirk tragedy. Uh, Pastor Green, how you doing, good sir?
Great, 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 great. Ready to get
Ready to
things moving.
Awesome. Let's go. All right. Great. So we'll go ahead and Pastor Green, if you can, what we believe in this show here is that never hurts to have a little bit more prayer in our lives. So regardless of any religion or any, wherever you might believe in, we believe in at least doing some sort of prayer on the show for yourself or maybe somebody you know. In our case, we're mainly Christian on this show, but we welcome all faiths, and we like to have a tradition of just doing a little praying for the show. So, Pastor Green, whenever you're ready, you go ahead and pray us in.
Okay. And dear Lord, we just thank you for this day that we are here to say what needs to be said. So, Lord, we just pray that you would direct our thoughts and our words in a way that will all, open the eyes and ears of all who hear. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. So I have like I said, we have a few things we talked about on the show forever. Like obviously, we're getting close to getting somebody to help us with editing, where we could upload shorter clips of the show. So that's coming around the corner. But what we did in the meantime, though, I did whip together. I got a little better with Canva, and we whipped together a few. I think a few things. I think Conspiracy Brother and Pastor Green, you guys are like. Just promos of the show. Just quotes that we kind of talked about on the show. So I'm trying to pull it up real quick. and let me know what you guys think. Um, so once again, these are just works in progress. It's not something like we have to could always tweak as time goes on. But let me go ahead and all right, these images showing up now. All right, so this is just some images, and this kind of represents before we get into that more heavy topic of obviously the Charlie Kirk deal. I want to kind of just share these. The audience can see it. You guys can see it. Just everybody that's kind of been on the show in the past. That came on as they're oh, what's this going on? What's that about? Oh, sorry guys, hold on a second. This weird X come from? Uh, oh, all right. All right. Anyway, so this is the image of everybody who's been on the show at some point, even if it was just once or twice. So we got a little image right here. The gang's all here, you know. And then another one with uncomfy truths in the middle as well. So just a little something we're gonna just do to better kind of advertise the show, market the show. Um, this one right here, which I like. Um, hold on a minute, guys. Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, there's a video lag on my end. Um, okay, okay. So do you guys see? Okay, you guys still see my screen. Okay, so I want to kind of share that. All right. Then now we're gonna get to the quotes. So we've been talking about all three of us about getting the merch shop set up with our different quotes on a shirt. So until we get that set up, I went ahead and made a couple of quote images. All right. So first one right here, my personal favorite: the left's selective outrage always exposes their hypocrisy. From yours truly, Pastor Green, and I yield. There it is, and I yield. So we got to start putting a little bit of branding out there. Next one, equally so, the right selective outrage always exposes their hypocrisy. There's a lot of that warmongering stuff on the right that we kind of call out on the show as well. Um, Conspiracy brother, non-citizens should be non-issues. Non-citizens should be non-issues. And we said that I remember a few episodes back. I just dropped the mic. Like that needs to be on a t-shirt. So definitely shout out conspiracy brother. We're gonna get that on a shirt real soon. Because we said it here first, as our motto says. If somebody else won't say it, then we will. This is personal favorite of mine. I survived California, which I did almost 6 years out there, and I thought I wasn't gonna make it back. Got a little too crazy out there. Governor Gavin Newsom, new scum, if you will, and all that wildfire mess. All right, conspiracy brother. Now you mean to tell me Now you mean to tell me? So anybody who's been listening and watching the show, that's definitely a fan favorite soundbite of conspiracy brother. He's about to launch into like a whole some truth telling bomb. So now you mean to tell me? That's definitely I think t-shirt worthy. So I wanted to definitely throw that up as a quote. But then I got a little carried away a little bit. The art of noticing just doesn't apply to Zionists. Maybe illegal or undocumented is the new kind of pregnant. You know, that the leftist logic just doesn't make sense with that. We got open borders is a new DEI, which I called out. I did a whole video on that on my conservative brother channel, just on the spooky parallels between the left's obsession with open borders and just how it's almost just as toxic as DEI. Open borders is obviously more dangerous. DEI is just toxic in the corporate workplace. And then over here, it's not hate speech just because you hate hearing it. It's not hate speech just because you hate hearing it. So there's that. And then I had a little spot available. I know conspiracy brother, you're behind the scenes. But I was gonna make a little challenge if either one of you thought of a new quote, or maybe a quote that you've said before that maybe we haven't captured yet. So I guess Pastor Green, I'll pass it to you. Is there a good saying or kind of a quote or mantra just in these times that you'd like to share with us? You know,
Not
that we
at
can
this
add to
second.
the list. Oh,
Not at this second.
all right, all right. Well, I'm just putting the challenge out there, so we're gonna start building up our sound bites. All right. So that's that. All right, guys, we're gonna get into it. Obviously, heavy subject. So we're going into topic number one in relation to domestic and local affairs, and then the presidential administration latest going on. So, Pastor Green, I'm gonna go through each topic real quick, just kind of touch on it. I'll have you kick it off, and then I'll kick it off on whatever you want to cover, and then I'll talk off of that as well. So obviously, biggest one right now going on TPUSA founder Charlie Kirk assassinated. Uh, Obviously, since our last show, he got assassinated that Wednesday the 10th. Obviously, there's still a lot going on with the shooters. Obviously, we have a shooter that's been booked and charged, and a lot of things going on in different directions with that. Everybody has their speculations, different angles. Um, on a sad note, the funeral is actually probably just wrapping up. I was watching it on live stream. I don't know if Pastor Green you were as well. But yeah, that's very sad, very sad case, very sad. Just loss of such a life. So we got to definitely talk on that. President Trump recently filed a defamation suit against the NY Times, I believe for about 15 billion. I think earlier today or yesterday that they got struck down by a judge, some activist judge, I'm assuming. Trump designating Antifa as a terrorist organization. It's about time. We've talked about Antifa many times on this show, so it's a long time coming. A lot of people freaking out, especially the black leftists, acting like they designated the Black Panthers. Even though I don't know, at some point there was that sort of designation, but don't conflate Antifa with the Black Panthers. That's just an insult. So black folks getting bent out of shape because Antifa hijacked our Black Fist sign for decades, and now they're putting out warnings about Antifa, and they're lumping in the Black Fist sign with Antifa, even though Antifa has hijacked that from us for years and y'all never said nothing. So black folks kind of butthurt about that. Sad to say it. RFK HHS policy updates. I believe the ousted CDC director testifying before the Senate this week with a little crocodile tears, and I believe there was about 10 or 12 Democrat senators or Congress reps calling for RFK's resignation. Just the audacity, like, oh, just because we're senators and we don't like that other side, we're going to call for his resignation. So they're trying to put together this whole hoopla of a letter and all that stuff. And then our final subtopic of topic one. Um, this hasn't really been talked about because this was swept under the rug. I'm gonna say swept under the rug, but it happened just a few days before Charlie Kirk's death, unfortunately. But the Trump dinner breach, he was at this restaurant, and these pro-Palestine activists showed up, being loud and coming within feet of the president. And at first, I kind of brushed it off, like, "Hey, it is what it is." But then again, a few days later, Charlie Kirk gets shot. So I wanted to I'll kind of go over that once Pastor Green. I want to get your initial thoughts, but it just really struck me as very odd and very hard to see why this breach happened. Things went okay. They got escorted out, but one of them could have showed up with a bomb or a knife or throw something at him, and we could have had the same situation as we experienced, unfortunately, with Charlie Kirk. So these are the topics for the first subtopics for our first section. So Pastor Green, whenever you're ready, whichever one of these you wanted to dive in on for this
Well,
first topic
of, of course,
category.
the assassination, because
Mm.
Again, what we're seeing is leftist activity. You know, the hypocrisy, the horrible thing that they said that there's violence on both sides. No, this is not a both side issue.
Right.
Okay, we as conservatives, we speak our minds, but we don't throw our fists.
Mm-hmm.
We don't shoot our guns. We don't act like that. But the left, that's how they operate. I mean, when you look at Black Lives Matter, what did they do? They were burning cities. They were killing people. Okay, we don't act like that. And this assassination of Charlie Kirk personifies a few things. Number one, we know that these transgenders are not only are they crazy, but they're murderous and they're satanic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, again, Charlie Kirk was murdered by a homosexual who was in a relationship with a transgender. And it seems that there is a transgender terrorist organization because you look at the shirt that the alleged shooter wore, and then days later, when they had the memorial in Arizona, another individual had the same shirt on. Now, you can't get this shirt
Yep.
in the store. So, seeing that they both had the same shirt on, it tells me that there's a organization, a terrorist transgender organization. And who's backing them up, who's supplying them, I don't know. But we definitely see that there is an organized terrorist organization amongst transgenders, and it needs to be stopped. And again, as I said the last time we came together, there needs to be laws enacted that make being transgender illegal. It just has to stop. Why do we need to keep trying to reason with people who are insane? Why do we have to try to reason with people who are crazy, visibly crazy? Okay, we just need to start trying to placate crazy people. The time
Can't
has come.
placate crazy.
Can't placate. Yeah, we could put that on. Can't placate crazy. We could put
Yeah.
that. There you go. Can't placate
I'm doing it
crazy.
right now. Can't placate crazy. All right. All right. I'll add that later. All right. But yeah, still continue, Pastor Green. Yep.
And we see how the left operates. We see this. So Jimmy Kimmel gets fired. And what happens the next day? The studio or the place where ABC or Disney had an office in San Diego, it gets shot up.
Mm. I didn't even hear about that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just happened 3 days ago. Just happened 3 days ago. So
Mm.
this is the terrorism. This is the satanic mindset that we're dealing with, and people need to be arrested. People need to go to jail because you look at this the same way law enforcement is trying to do their job, and you got people who actually challenge them. You know, you look at what's been happening. This is not the American way, and we need to get back to law and order in this country. And what happened to Charlie Kirk should not make us fearful, or this should embolden us to speak louder because this
Hmm.
has to stop. This has to stop. And I yield.
Man, great point, Pastor Green. Thanks for kind of setting the stage because we definitely got to talk about at least the trans left issue side of this. Because once again, it was recorded back in the 50s, 60s, the old, I think the DSM books that homosexuality, transgenderism is a strain, a parallel of mental illness. And what you had here on the left is an increasingly tolerant to cheerleading and harboring. people with these mental illnesses. And there's just so many facets of this going on. And there's a book called Beyond the Pale Horse. I know Conspiracy Brothers really familiar with it. William Milton Cooper. All right. So I believe it's twofold. I believe once again these people, they're mentally ill, they're radicalized. I don't buy into the left is what they're always trying to do is say everybody, every violent mass shooter or whatever it was, oh, they were conservative, and then but then they got disillusioned by it and they decided to do it. Like no, maybe a few of them had a conservative background or maybe they had a hard bad relationship with their parents, but at the end of the day, they got radicalized. It doesn't matter if they were a moderate milk toast liberal or they came from the hardest of a conservative family. At some point, they got radicalized into this uh, internet radicalization. Okay, so I believe this guy once again. He has a trans roommate. He did all this stuff. I will further say though that I don't think he did all of this by himself. I don't think that he was the lone gunman JFK style. I think there are people with vested interests who want to continue stirring division. Yes, there's leftists, there's people on that whole side. They're dumb enough to say, "Yeah, let's kill them and let's do that," and it helps kind of drum up their bloodlust. But I think what we're dealing with here, if you look up and read through William Milton Cooper's Beyond the Pale Horse. He used to work in the government, CIA. He got unalived mysteriously some years ago. That the deep state CIA's long term plan is to continue to create chaos, and they have the perfect foot soldiers to do that with these trans shooters who, once again, whether it's through MK Ultra methods, whether it's through they pose as other troubled youth like them online. There are ways like the Uvalde shooting, through the Nashville shooter, the recent Minneapolis Catholic shooting. You have these examples of these troubled trans youths that all of a sudden get these cars, they get these weapons, they get all this thing that they're kind of set up to go off and do. Yeah, they're still crazy. We still need we still need safeguards in place to banish this radicalization, this propaganda online. But I just feel there's a sinister spiritual work it for us that wants to, and I also feel like at the end of the day, a lot of these trans people are at least the crazy ones. In a way, they're just as much victims. I won't say just as much victims. I ain't trying to say that. I'm just saying that they are also in some ways being used as tools. Now, they still need to accept responsibility. They still did what was wrong, but what we're seeing is something sinister on the surface as far as this trans shooter goes. And I know this is a conversation. I don't know, Pastor Green, you looked much into this, just on the thought of Charlie Kirk and what Candace Owens has been uncovering about his recent pushback, his recent speaking out against Israel. Now, am I saying it was Netanyahu and Israel that did it? No. But what I'm saying is there are elements here where, yes, there is this left trans issue that we have to continue to combat, but we cannot overlook the fact that we look at Charlie Kirk, how hated he became from all these different groups. He called out black leftists. He called out the Islam. He called out Islam and the extremists there. He also called out the LGBTQ. But he also, in his last few months, he had words about the secular Jews, a lot of the neoliberal Jews that really instigated and funded a lot of this radical left. He did call out how a lot certain donors he would get the call about, pro Israel sentiment, and even through Max Blumenthal and Glenn Greenwald, they called out a lot of this stuff. So I still believe the left trans issue is an issue. This radicalization continues to get out of control, and these lefties are in fact committing these crimes. But I think for some of these, there's larger uniparty forces in place that's using these useful idiots, the left trans shooters and the LGBTQ. They're weaponizing their mental illness and they're using them to continue this globalist agenda. But once again, that's a rabbit hole for another day. All right, so I know we still got a lot more we could talk about with that, but also, Pastor Green, another topic you want to tackle out of this group we have here,
Well, I
or if you
think it.
want to just
I
speak
think
on
the
it.
I think the dinner that Trump was approached so closely
Mm-hmm.
by the Palestinian supporters, I didn't see that, but that just
Yep.
coincides, I really believe, with the uniparty, the wicked uniparty that someone within Trump's circles, whether it be Secret Service or someone else, someone is plotted against Trump. There's
Yep.
no way that
Yep.
someone that is pro-Palestinian should even have entered a restaurant, let alone got near Trump. You and I couldn't have gotten near Trump if we had tried that day. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so there's something nefarious going on around Trump. I mean, let's face it,
Yep. Yep.
it was the Secret Service and others that was behind that assassination
Yep.
in Pennsylvania. I mean, you had these little DEI hired
Yep.
females who couldn't even put the guns in their holsters or even cover the man. But the fact that it
Yeah, and it
happened,
was even on the website on how. Oh yeah, I was gonna say even on their website, the lady Kim Cheadle or Kim Kettle, whoever her name was, to step down. They had DEI initiatives on the website. We want to hire 40% women by this year.
exactly,
Four,
exactly,
5 foot
exactly.
one trying to protect the 6'3" man. You know?
So you know that that situation in that restaurant, that's troubling because I mean these people could have pulled out a gun or threw acid in the man's face.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like
Yeah,
it's beyond
exactly.
it's not like it's beyond their capacity to do so or their reasoning.
Yep.
They would have did it. So it seems like Trump is surrounded by enemies once again. We saw this with his first administration. The people that were advising him were the same people that were working against him. And now we see the
Yep.
people who are supposed to be securing him, they're working against him. And
And
that's
it's
coming
just
from
so
within.
crazy. Yeah, it's just so crazy. And then conspiracy brother, I shared the video in the chat. Let me know when you have it ready because I'd like you to play that because I don't know, I'm never able to play the audio, get the audio work on my end. But yeah, because you're just sitting there watching this video, like why are they so close? And this had to be 2-3 days before Charlie Kirk got killed. And then I checked the timestamp. This Bannon episode aired that day, like earlier that morning. And then Charlie was shot like that early afternoon. So yeah, it kind of makes you wonder, like why, how would that even happen? This is Secret Service. I even remember like an old interview. Jay Leno gave an old interview about when he first had President Obama come by the Tonight Show, around his tail end, and he would say stuff like, "Yeah, like when the president comes in, like all cell phones within 15 miles are monitored." And I remember thinking like, wow, that's crazy. Wow, that was my first, like, I heard that like in the late 2000s, like, wow, that's some crazy security. They can monitor the cell phones.
Yeah,
And
well, Trump is
today
not
in
getting this security.
2025,
Hmm.
yeah, he's not getting that. Like
He's not getting that.
Obama's
It's
getting better
obvious.
security. Obama's getting better security 15 years ago than Trump's getting now. On top of having drones, on top of having metal detectors, just kind of blows my mind. So conspiracy brother, whenever you're ready, yeah, we can share this video and give it a watch. It's a little longer. It's about 12, 13 minutes, and I get it. Laura Loomer is not everybody's cup of tea. She's super pro Zionist, pro Israel, but
Your dinner. is the Hitler of our time. Free DC, free Palestine. Trump is the Hitler of our time. Free DC, free Palestine. Trump is the Hitler of our time. You are your legacy to be. You are your legacy.
Oh, here they come now.
Time to go. Time to go. Time to go. Let's go.
Free DC, free Palestine. Trump is the Hitler of our time.
Folks, we were in a situation last night that Polly Pocket, Mike Johnson, could have been the president of the United States. And I'm not kidding you. Laura Loomer joins us. Laura, it's so many. First off, it's not that there weren't many important people there. The president of the United States, the vice president of the United States, Secretary of State Rubio, and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. Those four individuals right there. How did this happen? And are some heads going to roll on this? Since McKinley was shot by the Polish anarchist, I don't believe any hostile individual has gotten this close physically to a president of the United States. And you could tell President Trump was a little shocked there. And explain who these people are, how radical, and how the frick did this happen, ma'am?
Yeah, Steve, well, thanks so much for having me on. This happened last night at around 10 p.m. when President Trump was leaving Joe Stonecrab, which is a popular Democrat hangout spot for the elites. I mean, look, everybody can go to Joe Stonecrab, but this restaurant was infamous for hosting Obama and Biden and a lot of high-level Democrat lobbyists. And so, generally speaking, Republicans get their food to go. That being said, President Trump went in for this kind of impromptu dinner with members of his cabinet, as you said. But as we all know, Steve, nothing is truly ever impromptu with the president of the United States because, well, you have to have a Secret Service detail. They have to do a sweep. They have to make sure that nobody is waiting inside to attack or harm the physical well-being of the president of the United States. However, if you look at this video, you see a group of women. They have now admitted that they are from Code Pink, a radical pro-Hamas, pro-CCP, pro-Iranian group that calls themselves an anti-war group. There's been calls to kick them out of Congress because they constantly hang out on a permanent basis inside the cafeteria of the Capitol, and they wait for members of Congress and they ambush them on video. And through my own investigative
hang on. Ho. It's a setup. Joni Evans, was it Joni Evans and Medea Benjamin? They're two of the most radical individuals. Andrew Breitbart fought these people 15 years ago. I mean, this was Andrew Breitbart's big nemesis. They can't be more radical, and they also can't be more dialed in. They're dialed in everywhere because of the billionaire husband, right?
Because, well, this is the thing. So if you recall, the violent LA riots that were taking place a couple months ago, where President Trump had to send in the National Guard for these raids on illegal alien criminal invaders, it was brought to light that Nabil Singman was funding these violent riots. Who is Nabil Singman? Nabil Singman is a CCP propagandist. He spends his time between Los Angeles and Beijing. He is the second husband of Jody Evans, who is the co-founder of Code Pink. He is a billionaire, and it's worth noting that Medea Benjamin comes from the very wealthy Benjamin family, big real estate family in the New York area. And so these people, they might look grungy, they might look kind of downtrodden, and they might look like, your typical leftist purple-haired freaks, but they are very well funded. And so, when you look at the implications of this, not only does it show that there's a lack of security within the Secret Service, something that is of grave concern, given the fact that President Trump has now survived 2 assassination attempts. The trial for Ryan Ralph, the individual in Palm Beach who tried to assassinate President Trump, began yesterday. We still don't have a full briefing on the Butler report, has not been released to the public. And yet we know that the Iranians have tried to assassinate President Trump on more than one occasion. Why do I bring this up? Well, because the individuals in this video and Code Pink founders are on video and in photographs traveling to Iran to meet with leaders of the regime themselves. And when you look at the fact that they are funded by the CCP and this massive shift towards multipolarity, you have to ask yourself, was this a foreign hit? The foreign intelligence tracked President Trump? Was this an inside job from somebody in the White House leaking his itinerary?
Hang on for 1 second. We'll take a short break. Outrageous. Laura Loomer's with us on the other side. The president was there, this impromptu, to show the safety of the streets in D.C., and it's happened. The restaurants are going back, et cetera. I do take umbrage a little bit with Laura on about Republicans and Democrats. It's known as at least an order out place for Republicans, but I wouldn't trust the security over there to go sit down and eat. Laura Loomer, you tweeted last night, and you're not overstating the case. You're not being hyperbolic. Folks, this morning, we could have had Polly Pocket's Mike Johnson as president of the United States. You had the president, you had the vice president, you had Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, and you had Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and Pete, and I think Marco, at least Pete, just back from being with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff down in Puerto Rico about what's happening in the Gulf of America and off of Venezuela. You had the national military command, the civilian part of it right there, with a secret service that you have to say is asleep at the switch. Why that place was not scoured, and particularly these Code Pink types, know who's in the thing and turf them out if they're there, is shocking. And they were just feet away from the president with steak knives and glasses right there, ma'am.
Yeah, look, I pointed it out, and I think that's even Susie Wiles in the back too, if you go and you show that other angle of the video. So not just cabinet members, I haven't seen that angle, but in the video that you just showed before you showed the tweet on the screen, I think that's even Susie Wiles. And so you have the chief of staff. You could have taken out, looks like, majority of the cabinet, and then you're right. As I tweeted last night, we would have had Mike Johnson as our president this morning, God forbid. But I do want to say something else, and it needs to be said. It is what now? Almost 11 a.m. Eastern, and we have not heard a statement or seen any type of statement from DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, who technically speaking is in charge of Secret Service? I mean, and so where was DHS Secretary Kristi Noem as President Trump was being berated by foreign agents from Code Pink? Oh, that's right. She was with UK Home Secretary and jihadi sympathizer Shabana Mahmood. I mean, so you have these jihadi lunatics just inches away from President Trump. They could have thrown a steak knife at his heart and stabbed him to death or cut his jugular with a piece of sharp glass. I mean, look, how come Secret Service isn't immediately whisking him away or tackling these women to the ground? Look at that.
Listen,
she has a knife.
exactly. Why were they not? They said it's over now. Why were they not thrown right to the ground and cuffed right there and dragged off to a not to DC Metro? Go ahead.
It gets worse. So where was Kristi Noem yesterday when all of this was going down? And again, she has not issued a statement. She was with UK Home Secretary and jihadi sympathizer Shabana Mahmood. Okay. She is a literal sympathizer for the globalized, the Intifada movement. And so why is Secretary Noem legitimizing jihadi sympathizers who are calling for the Islamification of the West? There's photos of her with Shabana Mahmood all over Twitter, and she hasn't even issued a statement about this. So this is the problem, right? We don't have a Republican Party, and I hate to say it, even people within the cabinet of the Trump administration, they don't have what it takes to call out the threat of Islam in America. And we are about to witness a Muslim communist from Africa take over New York City, Steve, the largest city in America. And we're going to see copycats all across the country. Why do I bring this up?
Hold it.
Because if you think that this is going to be an outlier, what we saw happen to President Trump last night, that's going to happen to every single non-Muslim in our country. You are going to be harassed by these jihadists when you go out to eat. Our politicians are going to face threats of assassination from these Palestinian lunatics who are calling for globalize the Intifada and calling for jihad against anybody that doesn't want to support a Palestinian state. We saw it last weekend in Detroit, Michigan with the People's Conference for Palestine. And I just want to know, what is it going to take for the Trump administration to take these jihadis seriously? We hear talks about revoking their visas, right? But what is it going to take? We already saw a Palestinian murder two Jewish people, a beautiful young couple outside the DC Jewish Museum. What makes them think that these people aren't going to assassinate the president? I mean, hello, we've already had political assassinations in our country at the hands of Palestinians.
Last night they should have been thrown to the floor or cuffed and taken not to the DC Metro, but to a federal prison. To allow that to happen that close to the President of the United States. And remember, they're holding up Luigi as a hero. If they had done something to the president last night, all over left-wing media, you would have seen these people as a hero. Laura,
fired. What are you
looking for out of we got about a minute here. What are you going to look for out of Kristi Noem? By the way, I keep saying there's going to be a civil war in the UK because you have Sadiq Khan as the mayor of London. The same thing's going to happen in New York. But I might add, Laura, with all you're coming in hot on this, the polling shows 60% of young Jewish people under the age of 30 are going to vote for Ma'am Donnie, and I think a third of his staff are young Jewish professionals. So this is all happening out in daylight. New York's going to be just like London in 10 years. This is the actual real threat, and people, and now all the big donors and all the big corporations in New York City are bending the knee to Mamdani, just like they did in London, to bend the knee to Sadiq Khan. Ma'am.
Yeah, well, look, it's a tale as old as time. Only 20% of the Jews left Egypt. That is a real statistic. And so, unfortunately, it appears that there is a severe mental illness or a mental deficiency or some type of, genetic malfunction within 80% of the Jewish community. And I say that as a Jew myself. They vote against their own interests. They have suicidal empathy. They stand with jihadists who openly call for their eradication. And look, first what do they say? First they come for the Saturday people, then they come for the Sunday people. It is time for Americans to unite over the threat of this global jihad. If the UK falls, the US is next. You don't just have Mamdani and Sadiq Khan, but as I just pointed out, you also have Shabana Mahmoud. How can the United States continue to share intelligence with the United Kingdom through the Five Eyes program when you have a literal jihadi Muslim in charge of the UK's intelligence agency now?
We got to bounce. What's your social media? I'm looking for you to
meeting with her. You got to follow me on X at Laura Loomer. Follow me on X at Laura Loomer. Tweet at Kirsty Noem. Call for an immediate investigation and review of Secret Service and ask her to issue a statement about this instead of rubbing elbows with jihadi Muslims from the UK.
All right, so a lot there. Like I said, I don't agree with Laura Loomer on everything. She could be a little hyperbolic, or
we pay tribute to Charlie Kirk,
Israel,
and we celebrate.
But let me say this. Let me say
go
this.
right ahead. Go right ahead.
Just watching that shocked me because they let that woman reach and pull out that poster. Let me tell you something. I did executive protection for several mayors in New York City. Anytime anybody reaches in their jacket or behind their back, they're supposed to get shot because you don't know what they're going to pull out.
Yeah, and they just
that woman should have been shot. I mean, they actually let her pull. I mean, that could have been a machine gun rather than a poster.
Yeah, and here's the thing, and even taking out the context, because once again, I think obviously the there's a difference between pro-Hamas and pro-Palestine. These people have the right to protest, just not within feet of the president. And my also concern is this was even President Biden, Kamala Harris, and whoever their chief of staff. As much as I hate their views, if we saw this same video, the three of them hanging out at a restaurant,
we'd be outraged.
Yeah, it'd be outraged. They'll have it all over the news, all over the media. And I know it ain't gonna be like a MAGA person is gonna run up in there. It's gonna be somebody that's mad at them because they didn't do enough against Israel. And the same thing could have happened. Could have had the same results. So I just find it very odd. And I think Laura brought up some good points about just a lot of the continued.
No, she brought a lot of good extra points. And the thing about it, what we need to remember, and I don't know why our memories are so short. I remember how these Palestinians were cheering when they found out the Twin Towers were destroyed. They were cheering in the street, handing out candy to children, yelling at the top of their lungs in glee because America was attacked. And how do we let these protests happen in America after 9/11? It baffles me. It angers me. It really does. Why do these people have visas to be in our country? We can't go over there to protest like that. This is what gets me. Why are these people even allowed to be in this country? This has to stop.
You made great points. So conspiracy brother, I got my screen share back and ready. but yeah, and definitely we got unfortunately so much going on this week. We did hit the 9/11 anniversary, so I do have a portion of the show we can kind of talk on that, the 24th anniversary. So yes, a lot of questions. Laura Loomer brought up a lot of good questions. Like I said, I agree with her on everything. There's a difference between pro Hamas, pro Palestine, but at the same time, there are Palestinians that have a lot of hypocrisy when it comes to their hate of America. Even though there's a there is a war complex with America, but Pastor Green, you bring up some good points. That why was the security not? Why was that like that? So I think we still have a lot of questions we have to ask about that. Now, this last topic I want to get to, I got a personal bone to pick. Antifa. So, officially designated as a terrorist organization. It's a long time coming. Um, I have no sympathy for these people. I've come across them face to face, and once again they go by anti-fascist. But and this is kind of conspiracy brother. This is a group chat conversation that I did have with another gentleman that we both know, just on how Antifa has come from a long line of these left wing activist groups that follow a Marxist, anarchist agenda. They grew up under the rules that they use, basically the rules for radicals, saw the Linsky tactics, and it's really just the gateway for communism. They love they love socialism. Socialism begets Marxism, and Marxism leads you to communism. And I gave examples as early as the Occupy Wall Street movement, which once again had a very well intentioned, focused start at first, where they were calling out Obama, the big banks, the 5% elites that bailed out the banks and then let so many millions of people around the country lose their homes. But next thing you know, as the wall Occupy starts to catch steam. Next thing you know, there's people infiltrating in there. These black people said this group about the LGBTQ and this one and that one. Next thing you know, they're divided by race, by religion. Oh, you're racist, you're homophobic, and it's like a controlled demolition on how the Occupy Wall Street went down. Just from people I've heard that were by that, including Tim Pool, on how they'll use the Marxism, the oppression Olympics, divide everybody by labels, groups, and it destroyed that Occupy Wall Street movement down, which could have really put an end to the way the banks have their power. So there's that. Like I said, we all talked about summer 2020, George Floyd riots, and how they infiltrated. What I think some well-intentioned BLM protesters who really didn't know how bad BLM was. They went in there with the best intentions. They were propagandized into the whole George Floyd propaganda. They went in there and Antifa was in there with them, smashing windows, taking piles of bricks and running, and doing all that stuff. And even with my own eyes, I saw I saw Antifa show up at a rally, a UCLA anti-lockdown rally. So this is when I was starting to get out of my shell, speaking out, and I went to this rally, and there's all different walks of life there. There's conservatives, there's libertarians, Latinos, black, whites. Met a few Bernie Bros, former Bernie Bros, all eclectic of different people who were just not about the infringement of our rights to still be locked up in LA and Los Angeles. And we see those little skinny white boys walk around a corner wearing all black, ninja, like dressed like a ninja. They walk right up to the corner. I'm on one corner protesting the side of the street of people protesting for whatever it is, God's mercy, whatever it was. The Antifa happened to walk up to that other corner. All right. So the Antifa, they're standing probably like 4'5" to 5 foot tall. Maybe none of these people would maybe no none of these white boys are no taller than 5'3". All right. So they walk up, they don't say anything. And once again, the protesters on our side, they're shouting in their face, "Hey, what do you think you're doing? We got the right to be here. You Antifa's guys think you're tough." So they're standing right there. They got one hand behind their back. And I'm like, oh crap. Next thing you know, two, three of them pull it out, pepper spray. They pepper spray everybody on the block, and then they run down the street, run around a corner. This is what they do. This is what they're and black folks, once again, we're either not told about it, we're CNN, MSNBC acts like they don't exist, or no, they're just peaceful. They're peaceful protesters that are allies. No, this is who they are. So I'm for one happy for this. Um, I have no sympathy when you have the Biden DOJ, while they didn't designate pro-life activists as a terrorist group. At the same time, they were going after pro-life activists, conservatives, as if they were terrorists. Might as well,
Exactly.
So that was my biggest beef, is that the left selective outrage, and they pretend like they weren't doing this to conservatives the last 10 to 15 years. So I think Antifa, based on their experience, I'm sorry, but the pro-life activists, Biden DOJ went after them hard, and the pro-life activists weren't burning down buildings. They weren't causing riots. They weren't doing even half of the stuff they're doing. So I think the Antifa terrorist designation isn't an overreach. It's actually well deserved. Pastor Green, you go right ahead.
Well, like you said, this is long overdue because Antifa has been committing acts of terrorism. And again, this just shows you the lawlessness that has been allowed to exist. The only time tolerance is demonstrated is through lawlessness. I just don't understand this. We allow people in this country to abuse law enforcement, and Antifa is one of the chief perpetrators of that. And it's time for people to be locked up. I mean, anytime anybody gets in a police officer's face or in the face of ICE agents, they need to be locked up, plain and simple. And that will take the battery out of a lot of the backs of these domestic agitators. Start putting handcuffs on them, put them in jail, and
Yeah, welcome to
you'll see a lot of this
consequences.
cease.
Yeah, and to that point, like once again, Tim Pool talks about this a lot. The tourists, the protesters, the agitators. He calls them tourists because they go to these websites and they sign up literally on a roster list, and they get bussed into each city. They're never from the neighborhoods. You can't even like question them or even ask, hey, have them explain their views. They just scream and shout at you. And I find it very funny that once again the whole Trump's a Nazi fascist, Charlie Kirk's a Nazi fascist. Charlie Kirk, at the end of the day, he came to college campus, he sat down with a microphone and said, hey, talk to me. Talk to me. Explain your position. How's that fascism? Where was Charlie Kirk working with the government and the big tech companies and the mass media to silence your speech? That's what fascism is. Charlie Kirk was up here just saying, hey, just come talk to me. And what another tactic that Tim Pool talks about that they do is where if they want to get new students who are kind of, like the veteran paid protesters. What they'll do is they'll start shouting up a storm. They'll get into maybe an ICE or a police officer's face, and then somebody in the back will arbitrarily throw something. Even it's like an Antifa, they'll throw something at a cop. And then the cop, they go in, they storm in and arrest everybody. And the new radical newcomer is sitting in jail like, I don't know what happened. We were just protesting, then they arrested us. And then the paid protester like, yeah, the paid protester who threw the can that nobody was looking at. Yeah, you see how bad they are. You see how fascist they are. Knowing good and well they were ones that caused that to get you guys arrested in the first place. But then you have Act Blue that already sent $10 million through George Soros to bail you guys out. So they already go to jail knowing they're gonna get bailed out. That's how they do. Minneapolis and Tim Walz ran a fund on that, but they've been in jail long enough for the newcomers to get radicalized and go like, yeah, they are bad for us. They are fascists. You're right. Even though Antifa set you up to get arrested in the first place, and then they know their Act Blue friends are gonna bail them out. So these are the games they play. This is the rules for radical. This isn't like, oh, we're peaceful protesters. This is all laid out in the book. And like I said, Tim Pool, who did a lot of covering on Occupy Wall Street, and a lot of the people I know can protest to this. So Antifa gets zero sympathy from me.
Oh,
Anything
no
else,
sympathy at all.
Pastor Green?
Yeah, I want to talk
All right.
about RFK. And I applaud RFK because he is not playing around with the pharmaceutical companies, nor is he playing around with the Chinese Communist Party, because we know that these vaccines have caused people to die, have caused people to have heart attacks, cancers, and he knows it. And again, I'm outraged that you will have people who will call themselves doctors or scientists or medical professionals that will advocate for the forced use of these vaccines. And another thing, newborns getting tetanus shots. Why are newborns getting so many shots? I mean, I applaud RFK for telling the truth and standing against the evil powers that be, because the CDC is responsible for so many deaths and medical complications of people's lives, and they can't even be brought to court or even be sued for their lack of accountability.
Yep. So much corruption. That's thanks to President Reagan signed that 1986, I think, the Childhood Vaccine Injury Act, so where there's like this undisclosed fund for vaccine injured people, but you got to fight like hell, and it's worse than like trying to get on unemployment to even get a settlement. And when you do, it's like within the hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars. So RFK, I hope this cleaning house continues. I mean, he literally wrote the book on the CDC. I think the real Anthony Fauci. He's the most kind of foremost expert on how this organization works. And then, of course, Democrats, all they can do is double down. They can't ever compromise. They can't ever, you got Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. They were the loudest on that. And then every
And they were
time
the
you bring
highest
up,
paid too.
yeah, highest paid. Once you bring up the $1 or $2 million they got paid, they scurry off into their little corner again. But I think RFK just keep going, making it happen. I think this whole thing, I don't know if it's like 10 or 12 Democrat senators, they signed a little petition to get him removed. I don't know the legal merit to that. I think it's just a bunch of BS. Let's hope
That's
it's
all
a
it is.
nothing burger. They don't send it to some radical activist judge, hopefully. But yep, RFK is doing the Lord's work in this field. So I'm all for that. All right, y'all. Once again, you guys are watching Uncomfy Truths. Make sure to give us a follow on Rumble. We are also on YouTube and Odyssey. So feel free to give us a follow, a like, a subscribe. And yeah, we're out here doing our thing. Recently celebrated 3 years and 50 episodes, and we're just going to keep chugging along. So, next thing we got Culture Wars. Our favorite. Or people don't want to admit it's their favorite, but it's my favorite. All right. So we got a lot of topics going on. Obviously, in the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk assassination, right before that, a week before, we had the unfortunate Charlotte train stabbing. A lot of people feel a lot of ways about that, so that's definitely a big issue. A lot of
Let's talk about that right now. Let's talk
yeah,
about
yeah.
that because
All right, go right ahead,
the
Pastor Green.
thing that
Yeah.
shocked me, I didn't hear about that stabbing until 3 weeks ago, and that stabbing happened
Mm.
August 22nd,
Oh. Oh, okay,
and
that's
you
about right. Yeah.
and you didn't hear nothing about it.
Well, yeah, there was definitely a media blackout for the first few days. I think by like 5, 7 days after it was just so obvious that the perpetrator's black, the victim's white. This isn't this isn't what we want to perpetuate. We want to show that stigma. So but
But
yeah,
to
it
hear,
sure gets
but to
tough.
hear the mayor of, but to hear the mayor of Charlotte talk about, oh, we can't arrest our way out of this. This man shouldn't have been. I mean, this
That
man
was
should not have been in
insane.
the street.
That
He
was
was
an
arrested
insane.
14 prior times. 14. Let that sink in.
Not only that, but he basically even his own mother
His own
was
mother
like
wanted him
begging him
locked
like
up.
don't let him get out again. And then I think he ended up getting out. And then one of those priors where he ran to his sister's house and beat her up or assaulted her. It's insane.
And
Yeah.
the whole thing about it now, when the mayor of Charlotte, when she said that, she didn't even acknowledge the woman that got killed in the statement. All she's talking about, oh, well, we have to have sympathy for the mentally ill. The mentally ill who are criminally insane need to be kept in confinement.
Well, they're all leftists. That is
You
once
know,
again going back to the Saul D. Linsky book, Rules for Radicals. It's some step like deny, deflect, project. Whatever they're guilty of, they accuse you of the same thing. So deny, deflect. That's the leftist tactic. The Boston mayor's woke leftists. Same with Charlotte. But anyway, continue. Yeah.
but I just could not believe that the murder itself was not even acknowledged. This is the thing that blows my mind. I mean, this woman was stabbed broad daylight, and all all they're talking about is mental illness. That was
We
murder.
we should be. I know. Is it? We should be just as outraged if it was a white guy and a black woman. Do you
But
have any idea
this
how?
leads me to another point. This leads me to another
Yeah.
point I want to make. This is
Yeah.
why in America we need to have the death penalty, and it needs to be vigorously enforced. You want to see
Mm,
crime go down
yes.
in America overnight?
Mm,
Enforce the death penalty,
yep.
especially when there's no doubt. Especially when you don't even need DNA evidence to prove who the killer was. All right, we saw who the killer was in
Yep.
Charlotte. So give him the needle. See, this is what's wrong with this country. We're too liberal. We're too soft on things
Yep.
that we need to take a hard stance on, and it has to stop.
I like to. I like to always. Yeah, exactly. And when it comes to hard on crime, I like to always channel the spirit of the late great Robin Harris, comedian. Gotta go, gotta go. If you look at his old stand up, he did his HBO stand up right before he
Yeah, I
croaked.
remember that. Yeah.
Gotta go,
Well, the
gotta
man said,
go.
"I'm
Like, what do
I'm
they do
not
over?
going to do it again. I know you're not going to do it again.
Nah, nah,
Gotta
I
go."
ain't gonna do it. Yeah, in Middle East, what do they do? They cut your hand off, right? Judge don't want to hear shit. Nope, just show me the hand you stole it with. This is what works. Like, go look at Poland. Like, man, their crime is like zero. I think it was like El Salvador.
Yeah,
Harsh
El Salvador.
crime has harsh consequences if people don't want to do it again. You make an example, and it never and it's just like, unfortunately, we got these bleeding hearts who want to say, well, no, they just need help and all that, and it's just more of the same. So, and I tell you, like, if y'all think Trump is extreme, I've told y'all about Andy Frisella. So while we're on the topic of like being hard on crime, I've shared him on the show. But if Andy Frisella would have won for president, he's a self-made multimillionaire out of St. Louis, talks, speaks up a lot about the issues going on. Like, he has that same Robin Harris philosophy. Like, he talks about what's called the Big Show. The Big Show, he talks about it on the show. Just look it up. It is crazy. Like, it's funny how you talk about it, but then it's kind of like, man, that would really work. Where the Big Show is where you're on video. If you're proving that you've done it, there's no, oh, I'm gonna sit in death row and be memorialized for years while I wait on my appeal. Like, no, you immediately, nobody says your name in the media. You immediately you'd immediately go to a public execution that's televised pay-per-view, and all the money raised, everybody that tunes in, like the latest Mike Tyson Mayweather fight, all that money goes to the victims' families. And
That's a
it's
good
it's
proposal.
straight it's straight like Gladiator, head on a pike, whatever torture, live pay-per-view. And I know y'all like, oh, I thought because everybody, you're a Christian. I know, but I still believe in harsh consequences. I hope he accepts Lord Jesus as his Lord and Savior before his punishment, but he's still going to get the punishment that he did.
Exactly.
I hope he gets saved and he accepts Jesus Christ in his heart, but you still getting the punishment. And the punishment is, if you just look up Andy Frisella episodes, it's called The Big Show. And every time there's a violent crime that happens, he talks about it like, man, if I get in there, it'll be called The Big Show. So y'all think Trump is extreme? You got Andy Frisella out here. You got Nick Fuentes running around, and y'all want to sit up here and keep building up Trump like he's this like one in a lifetime evil Hitler when you really have no idea. Trump is moderate. Y'all killed Charlie Kirk. He was a moderate Republican with his views. He was nothing extreme about him. You lefties have no idea that this soft on crime BS, the backlash, there's going to be a wave of somebody getting in there far worse than what Trump would ever even Trump be like, man, that's even extreme. Well, y'all keep doing this, you're gonna get Andy Frisella in there, or you're gonna get Nick Fuentes in there. But anyway, uh, anything else, Pastor Green?
Well,
Yeah.
in regards to that,
Mm-hmm.
I really think that we as a conservatives, even as Christians, we need to advocate for the death penalty. I mean, the death penalty came from the Bible in the first place, an eye for an eye. If you take
Hey.
someone else's life, you forfeit your own.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the Bible teaches. But, murder is such a I mean, it's just a casual thing with these cashless bail. You could kill somebody and be out of jail the same night.
Yeah, brought to you
This
by
is
Act
murder.
Blue.
This
Brought
is
to you by
on
your
murder.
your friendly neighborhood, locally Soros funded DA, Attorney General. Yeah.
So, I mean, yes, they're going to give the killer of Charlie Kirk the death penalty, but they should give all killers the death penalty. Why should we pay? Why should we award people with 3 meals a day, free medical care, and whatever else they're entitled to behind bars? Because we are humane, which we should be, but this is insane. This is really insane.
But
I
once
mean,
again,
next week you won't even hear
mhm.
about that guy or that murder, and that's what they're hoping, that he'll be forgotten about.
And it's the same predictable identity politics of the racial idolatry, where a lot of black folks that are programmed for this leftist Marxist agenda, who really aren't Christians, CINOs, Christians in name only, where they'll look at this video and the first thing they'll do is, all right, who's black? All right, okay, the victim's black. Okay, I'm on their side. Defend that matter. Oh, who's the perpetrator's black? Ooh, man, yeah, that was crazy. But mental illness. Y'all are stigmatizing black men, and he just needs help. Hurt people, and it's insane. And we see
It's
this
insane.
over and over again. My God, Lord. All right, that's all I got on it. All right, Pastor Green. We got some other culture war stuff. We got the Mount Washington shooting, which hasn't been getting a lot of press. This was a white guy that ended up killing 3 people. Like, he went to this pharmacy and shot him up. For whatever reason, that's not getting a whole lot of press. Conspiracy brother, I know you're a little more well versed on this topic. I think either way, we still need to condemn whoever the color is, whoever it is. For whatever reason, that story isn't getting a whole lot of press, and a lot of leftists are kind of mad about it. But either way, that white guy, he can get the business. He can get, gotta go in the chair. So we also have the Cuban National, who killed that Indian hotel owner, beheaded the guy over like a washing machine dispute.
Oh
Did
yeah,
you hear
yeah,
about
that
that?
was that was crazy.
Yeah, so there's that. So I'm gonna get through this culture war. I'm gonna get through all the topics, and then you can pick, Pastor Green, what you want to touch on next. So the Phillies Karen incident, that kind of brings up a story of, I think, I ran into like a '90s Detroit Tigers Karen uh, as a kid. Me, my dad, and my sister went to a game. But that Phillies Karen incident, me being more on the light side, the NCAA, they're having some more sports betting violations by these players. This is in the era of NIL, and this is some things I've talked about on the show before about NIL and this path it's going and how they really didn't set it up right. And I made some concerns about it, and here we are. The Lions have like the highest ticket sales in the country over the season openers. There's a lot of talk about price gouging and really just screwing over the fans. Um, there's a store here in Metro Detroit. I'm not going to name the name or even the city, but this is one of the last standing video stores. And I went in there last week, and it was like they were marketing like, oh, under new management, revamp. And you go in, and I swear to God, Pastor Green, conspiracy brother, all my life, you go in, and it's the exact same video store, except half of it is a sex toy shop. That's all they did. You walk in, there's no back room, there's no divider walls. You walk right in, and it's literally like half a video store, and the other half, as you walk in, you see sex toys, you see the swings, you see all this stuff, and it's like all they did. Blows my mind. And then we have the black student who apparently hung himself at Delta State University. This has been getting some heat about because apparently they first said he found himself. They found him in his dorm room, and then it turns out he was hanging from a tree. So I think Conspiracy Brother has a little more context on that. There's some fishy phoniness going on. They're saying it's a hate crime. Once again, I'm always give people benefit of the doubt, but since the Jussie Smollett era, there's definitely been a lot of ways they kind of market it. But like I said, if this is what it is, that black student needs justice for if that's what it was. And then second to the last one, we had the Muslim mayor of Dearborn who literally told a resident, like a white resident, he's not welcome here, and he, basically giving off very kind of open borders. We're here to take over vibes. And then Dearborn, they're trying to bring in Sri law, for Dearborn, Michigan here. Finally, we got Jimmy Kimmel gotten what he deserved, because it's the whole
Let
words
me
have
jump on that. Let me jump on that.
Yeah.
Let me jump on that
Yeah.
because
Which one?
with the thing with Jimmy Kimmel, because one thing about
Yeah.
this cancel culture, this is what the left created,
Right.
and now they're getting a taste of their own medicine, which they deserve.
Exactly.
Which they deserve. Because I remember, even though I grew up in New York, I was a Jets and Giants fan, but my favorite football team has always been the Oakland Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
And for years,
Yeah.
I
I'm
rooted
sorry
for
about their move to Vegas. I'm sorry about that whole move.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
the thing that really bothered me was that John Gruden got fired for some statements he allegedly said 10 years
Allegedly.
prior. Allegedly.
What do you say? I don't remember that story.
They were saying he said something derogatory about someone and homosexuality. And this man got fired from his job. You see?
Mm.
And now
Yeah.
you got the left and the legacy, legacy media jumping up and down where Jimmy Kimmel got fired. Well, you know what? He deserved to get fired because, first of all, he lied publicly saying that the shooter was a conservative.
Was a MAGA person. That's their whole shtick. The whole
Right.
whoever it
So now
was.
you're going to take to the airways and lie. You deserve to get fired. But when everybody jumping at, now you're violating free speech. Okay, well, you liberals been violating free speech for years. Anybody that spoke against the COVID vaccine or COVID, what did they get? They got blackballed. They got banished. You see? So, miss me with this nonsense.
Yeah. And I'm gonna be really fair here, but I'm gonna lay it out lay it out thick though. Like Jimmy Kimmel, I think when I was younger, yeah, he kind of had some funny few things. This is the pre-divisive times. I remember he hosted like a roast for. They did a roast for Flavor Flav, Comedy Central roast on him. Pretty funny here and there. He used to do a lot of work with Adam Carolla back in the day. They since fallen out. Adam Carolla's more on the right, So I have a small amount of sympathy for when there was a time when Jimmy Kimmel kind of used to be a little funny, but since he's been on the show, since it's been political the past 10 years, he just kowtows to whatever the left says. This was a guy who mocked just a few years ago. Hey, if sorry if you didn't get vaccinated, sorry Wheezy, rest in peace on air.
Right.
This
right.
was a this is a guy who has this, just like with Colbert and all these Seth Meyers, all the other late night hosts, continue lowered ratings. Late night shows aren't pulling the audiences they once were. That's an understatement. Nobody wants to sit there and wait till 11:30 at night to watch your little scripted canned dialogue that's half funny and half old news anyway. We want to watch 1, 2, 3 hour podcasts and get full context and hear from real people, not your canned fake little political talk show. So
And this
with
man was
this
getting paid
going on,
$16 million a year. $16 million a
Exactly.
year. Are they
Waste of
for what?
money. And they're not getting their money back. They're not getting a return, just like with Colbert, the channel, the network's losing money every year. And this is an interesting conversation because Conspiracy Brother knows I talk about. There's a certain gentleman in our group chat, and I'm not going to say any names or nothing because we've invited him multiple times to come on the show and debate, and he has some reason or excuse, and he finally gave us a reason, which wasn't really a reason. So I'm not gonna say who he was or whatnot because that's low. You got to be, I'd rather have people on there to defend their views. But I can still talk about your bad ideas. I'm not gonna say who you are. 'Cause I don't believe in bashing anyone, putting their name out there and they're not here to defend it. But I can still bash your bad idea. So he had the nerve to say, like, I posted I posted this article and I was like, about Jimmy Kimmel getting canceled, and I was like, oh, where are all the words have consequences shoulder shrug people at? But because somehow you have the mean to tell me that Charlie had the free speech right to say what he said, but his words have consequences. Why he got shot? But when Jimmy Kimmel says his free speech, and then he just gets canceled, he doesn't take a bullet to the neck. Oh, this is an injustice. He's getting censored. Oh my God, this is a violation of free. Wait, 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 wait. I thought words have consequences. You know how many black folks got lost their jobs during COVID because they didn't want to take the vaccine?
Exactly.
So this
Exactly.
person defended. He was upset about Jimmy Kimmel getting canceled, saying what he had to say because his words have consequences. He got upset because black folks who celebrated Jimmy Kimmel's death, along with white people equally, got lost their jobs and whatnot because they celebrated Jimmy Kimmel's death. So I'm like, how do you have that logic of saying, well, Trump and Charlie Kirk, the way they talk and their rhetoric, their free speech, their free speech words have consequences. But yet, when it comes to people who celebrated Charlie Kirk's death and mocked it on late night show, how come that words of consequences doesn't apply to them? It doesn't apply to them, and all of a sudden they're victims of censorship. And I just tried to ask, like, where's the logic there where you apply that you don't apply that both ways, and you just talked around it. But that was just my biggest, is that, like, the left is, these are these tactics again where words have consequences, except when it comes to us, it applies to you, but rules for me, but not for thee. So yeah, so that's that. All right, so what else we got? What else you want to get on, Pastor Green?
Let me see here.
We got the Indian man, got a little Cuban national. He's probably a legal migrant. But whatever you want to.
Well, we could talk about that because, see, this is another thing. It goes to what are we allowing to live in this country? I mean, you could. I mean, someone can take a man's head off in broad daylight over something as trivial as a refrigerator, and then you just chalk it up as, oh well, well, all illegals are not violent. Well, how many illegals are being arrested right now for violent history?
Beheaded in front of his wife and son, or child, whoever it was,
over
a washing machine dispute.
I mean, this is crazy.
But you'll notice the same media is quiet about it when it comes to the perpetrator's identity. Are they black? Are they illegal migrant? Are they under some protected class that they're just suppressed and they're on this totem pole? And that's protected among anything else over the truth.
Oh, that reminds me. There were two men that were arrested in Utah. They placed a bomb under a Fox News truck.
Oh, no kidding. They go off?
And they were from Pakistan, Pakistanis. Again, you see this. And I was looking at something, and they were arrested, and they were classified as white on the arrest record, on the arrest report. So something's going on here, nefarious. where law enforcement is being used to cover up crimes.
Man. Oh yeah, talking about we were talking about that cooking the numbers. We shared about the DC commander who got suspended for cooking the numbers, and that's where they got all those stats where DC crime is at a 3-year low, or they gave out this
DC crime has
BS.
never been
FBI
low,
wrote out
period.
exactly. FBI wrote out those BS stats last year that everything's at a 50-year low when it comes to crime, and then Kamala said that during the debate. Trump tried to fact check her. Then you got the moderators playing fact check, giving him a fake fact check when it turns out the FBI didn't include the highest crime numbers in the highest cities and basically cook the books. And then what they'll do is they'll update the website a week later quietly. They don't put out a press release or announce it. And that's
No,
what
they've
they
been doing this for
continue to
years.
do. That's what they continue to do. And this is why we need Robin Harris back as president to pass his gotta go legislation. But let me let me
But
not
this
go
is what the
there.
left and the Democrats are doing,
Mm,
because you think of Brandon Johnson, who's saying we don't need more police. I mean, how do
mm.
you say that?
How do
And
you?
4th of July weekend, you 56 people get killed, shot. It's just that tolerance has to be abolished in America. I mean, we can't tolerate people lying in our faces, especially when it comes to our public officials.
That's what got us here. Is this tolerance and inclusion? Even though it's really more so the center and the right is more tolerant. It's like here's the Mount Washington shooting. So I think what if I was hearing the latest about this was there was I think a love triangle going on. I think the suspect Samuel with one of the girls here, they had like a little thing going on. And they got jealous. So I don't know what the latest is on this because once again, so let's read this here. I'm not that well versed. I know conspiracy brother. I know you're busy, but you're more than welcome if you want to hop in and get a little more context on the story. So, suspect in Mount Washington shooting sent gun photo to victim weeks before records show. Friends, family mourn victims killed in Mount Washington. Uh, Mount Washington, come on, triple homicide. Weeks before 3 people were fatally shot in Mount Washington, authorities were alerted to a call about a suspected gunman threatening suicide and texting a photo of a gun to one of the victims, police records show. Cincinnati police said Samuel Erickson, 26, killed 22-year-old Eden Eduga, 20-year-old Phevan Duggan, I guess they're sisters, near home in the intersection of Beacon and Glad. Um, Erickson is also accused of killing 27-year-old Bimnet DeReese before turning the gun on himself. Police said Erickson died days later on September 7th from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. More than 3 weeks before the shooting, Eden Degna called 911 August 8th and said that Erickson had sent a text that read, "I've scheduled this to be sent out after I'm dead." Dugna told dispatchers that Erickson had a history of suicide ideation and also sent a picture of the gun he bought the previous Sunday. He also told her on that same Sunday if he sees lights and sirens, he's going to shoot himself. Dugna was not with Erickson at the time of the August 8th incident, which dispatchers labeled as a suicide threat. According to report, authorities tracked the location of Erickson's cell phone via pings. The Hamilton County Sheriff Office also sent deputies to Erickson's home in Anderson Township, where he lived with his parents and spoke to his mother. It is not clear yet. It is not clear of the records how the incident was resolved. Police have yet to disclose the motive of the August 31st shooting. An incident report states the killings did not stem from domestic violence. Police have also said they did not believe Eric's actions were a hate crime. However, Cincinnati police previously told Erickson knew at least one of the victims, which had a romantic interest, hence the texting. The incident report states that Erickson was an acquaintance of the Adugna sisters and that his relationship with Doris was unknown. Sisters lived in Ethiopia till 2018. Um, Titsa Idugna, their aunt, said their mother was killed by their father when the sisters were 7 and 9 years old. The older Idugna sister said she raised the sisters alongside their grandmother. Phoeben and Eden Idugna worked as pharmacy technicians at Good Samaritan Hospital in Cincinnati. They moved to the U.S., support their careers. Eden was studying at University of Cincinnati with dreams of becoming a doctor. All right, so I'll get my quick thoughts real quick. And then Pastor Green can hop in whenever. But I can kind of see how people are kind of bringing up the parallels of like how this story isn't being talked about. Because once again, these were Ethiopian immigrants. They came here 6, 7 years ago, maybe similar to Ukrainian girl. And once again, both this white guy and the black guy, they had their own forms of mental illness. I can kind of see that, So this is a tragedy, but I will say with this white guy, this was obviously more calculated. Isn't it what is called second degree murder when it's calculated, or is it first
First
degree?
degree. First
First
degree.
degree. So this was obviously calculated first degree murder on top of a mental illness issue. And we can also say that there's either a soft on crime issue where she called the police and for whatever reason these police didn't take it seriously. They didn't follow up like they were supposed to. And unfortunately, these two beautiful girls are dead and the other guy. So I can kind of see the parallels. These are tragic cases of immigrants that came over here legally, assuming, and they end up getting killed by someone here in the U.S. These black girls got killed by this mentally disturbed white guy that seems more calculated. And then the Ukrainian girl comes over here legally, and she ends up getting killed by a black guy, which was more, I think, just because it was just so gruesome and caught on video. But it wasn't calculated. It wasn't first degree, but it was a murder. So I mean, it's just unfortunate. I don't think there's a hate crime attached to it, but like they were alluding to, there was a romantic relationship involved. This is once again uh, a police issue. It is once again the law hasn't been enforced. We need harsher laws for this for this white guy who killed them premeditatively along with the black guy who killed her, out of nowhere. So that's kind of my thoughts, Pastor Green. I don't know what else to say. They're both tragedies, but both I think have an issue of just the police not, the, just the lack of hard uh, crime
Well,
enforcement,
the,
or at
the
least
thing I
just
see
being able to see what
happening,
happened.
the thing I'm seeing happen is
Mhm.
that, you know, we're making
Mental
mental
illness. Yeah.
illness as a justification or excuse for murder and for crime,
Yeah.
and that has to stop.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I come out of law enforcement, and a lot of one of the things that's always been used as a defense to avoid full prosecution of the law is mental illness defense.
Yeah.
They've been using this for years, but now I see where it's just intensifying.
Yeah.
It really is. Now you just justifying it. Oh, mental illness as if it's supposed to be a means to disavow or disallow the murder.
Right. Or just like, a pass, an excuse,
Right.
you know. So this is unfortunate, So yeah, definitely, I feel like all these stories should get the same amount of media rotation, obviously, but it is tragic. That's 3 lives lost, So we gotta be outraged either way, no matter who it is, and that doesn't mean we cape up for just because it has a skin color we prefer that we cape up for the person. All
Yeah,
right.
and skin has nothing to do with it because
Yeah.
a lot of times when I dealt with a mental illness suspect,
Mm-hmm.
you talk with them, they might be a little off, but
Mm-hmm.
they're competent. They know what they did and why they did it.
Right.
You know, So,
Yep.
when people just say, "Oh, well, it's mental illness," just give them a pass and just rehabilitate them and put them back out in the street in a couple of years, as was did with most of these people today. No, 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 no. Mental illness is still no justification for crime. It's not,
Yep.
because I dealt with a lot of killers in my career, and they know what they
Yep.
did, and they know why they did it.
Yep. And that kind of takes me back just to make it a little light of a comedian. I think it was comedian Earthquake who said something about like, yeah, a guy did a mass murder. Like, I'm sorry, Judge, about a killing of 5 people, but that wasn't me. I have split personality, so it was my other personality that committed it. And then, Judge was like, well, both of you niggas about to do the time. So he's gonna
Hmm.
charge both of them. So a little lightheartedness. All right, so we got the Phillies Karen incident. So I don't know if you saw this, Pastor Green, about the Karen that there was a baseball that went into the stands, and it happened to pop over at the Phillies Karen grabbed the ball that was kind of in the
I
vicinity of the
lost you there
Phillies
for a
Karen.
while. I lost you there
Oh,
for a few
yeah.
seconds.
All right, where'd I drop off at?
About the beginning of the story about the Karen.
Yeah, the Phillies. This is the Phillies Karen. Have you heard about this story?
I heard about it, but I didn't pay much attention to it.
Yeah, so it's just it's just a little funny culture war stuff. So the Karen ran over, basically the baseball went into the stands. It went over, kind of fell over near where the Phillies Karen was sitting at. That's what kind of coined her, the Phillies Karen. And the father kind of ran over there into the section, grabbed the ball. It was a little out of pocket. You don't like run all the way down to the section to grab the ball, but he did, and he gave it to his son, and the son was all happy and all that. And next thing you know, Philly's Karen, she pulled up and it was like, "That's my ball," and berating him and all that stuff. And next thing you know, like, he gave over the ball immediately. Like, he grabbed the ball out of his son's hand and handed it right to her, and she just like, you know, it was just bad all around. Because what sort of father? Either way, you got the ball for your son. It's done. You went a little out of pocket by running all the way to a different section, but you got the ball. You gave it to your son. It's finished. Y'all should sit down, and the Karen sit there and kick and scream. Then she'll eventually go back to her seat. But this this guy gave the ball back, and he's looking bad. The Karen looks bad. But then again, they ended up showing up. The baseball team, Philly showed up and gave the kid who lost the ball to the Karen like a new bat and a ball. It's like it became a little funny human interest story. But it just kind of showed the audacity of, like, whatever, you lost the ball, whatever. The guy got it, like the kid got the ball, but she has the audacity to run over there and berate the guy and basically get the ball back, you know, um, from this kid. Like, who does that? And then the father looked just as like foul just for giving the ball back to the to the Karen. So he done lost his man card. So it was just really bad all around. So I don't know if you ever dealt with Karens like this, Pastor Green, or what your thoughts is on that. It just shows, like, just a lack of just the downgrading of just humans in general. Like, a man who can't stand up for his son, and then the Karen who wants to grab the ball back from a kid. It's just all around, just a
Yeah, I heard about it, but I didn't pay no
yeah,
attention to it at all whatsoever.
yeah. So that
That's
just
for
took
sure.
me back. Yeah, so that just kind of took me back to a time when I was at as a kid. My dad took me and my sister to Tigers game, and it was something oddly similar. There was a ball that went into the stands, and I think it hit the kid of a lady sat down a few seats from us. It hit the kid like in the shoulder or something, and then like it fell in my sister's lap. So my sister has the ball, and they're like, "Yeah, oh yeah," and all that. And my dad's cheering. And then my dad's like distracted; he's off doing something or watching the game. But then my sister is sitting next to the kid and the lady, and the lady's like, "No, that's my ball. That ball hit my kid. That's my ball." And I don't know. My dad was not paying attention. It was basically my sister. I was sitting in the middle, And then my dad was off still watching the game. And then my mom, what did my sister do? She handed her the ball.
Mm.
Hand her the ball. And then next thing you know, my dad looks up and he's like, "Where's your ball?" She's like, I gave it back to the lady that said it was hers." He was like, "What?" Ah, my dad's like just strung out, like, "Oh, why'd you do that?" And I'm sitting in the middle, like, kind of a little too young to still understand. Like, yeah, that was a rule. She shouldn't have done that. You know, I had
Uh-huh.
enough. I was old enough to kind of think like, yeah, she probably shouldn't have done that. You know, so that kind of just took me back to that moment where sometimes people will just do un. Humans will sometimes do inhuman things. All right. So this next one, the NCAA sports betting violations. Did you hear about this, Pastor Green?
No, I didn't hear about it, but let me just say this. I never thought that
Yeah.
sports betting should have been legalized. It just opens
Mm.
up the door to, you
Yep.
know, to corruption in sports. Because,
I,
years ago, you had all the speculation about, you know, games being fixed and things like that.
yep.
So now why would you bring legalized sports betting into the mix?
I'm
I
glad you
really
mentioned
feel,
that
yeah, yeah. I mean,
because
yeah.
yeah, because once again, in the whole NIL era we're in now, like I said, I'm glad that players are now getting compensated. They're getting paid. They're getting their piece of the pie. It just wasn't structured the right way, or that this is sustainable. What they should have done is that everybody, if every player is getting paid, everybody gets a flat stipend. Not enough just to live off of, but yeah, you get like a nice little $1,000, 2,000, or 5,000 a month stipend where everybody gets paid the same. There's no ego of like, well, we're getting paid. Now, when it comes to certain players having more value because they bring a certain value to the team, like where it's like a Bryce Underwood or whatever it is, guess what? Whatever their sponsors, whatever stuff they get while they're in college, it goes into an annuity. It goes into a trust. They can't take that and go around flaunting it and paying for jewelry and cars, and then they got to sit there and along with along with once again whoever has deals and sponsors, they get it in annuity, and then as soon as you graduate and go to the league, you get all that money from your deals and sponsors. You can open it up, or if you drop out of school, you don't play in the NCAA anymore, then you get it. So that just allows a playing field where there's people playing, there's teams playing with each other, players playing with each other every day, and there's not that ego there, where it's money's getting in the way. And now to your point, Pastor Green, I wholeheartedly believe that sports betting, there's always been some corruption in it, and now it's going to incentivize these younger players to embark in it even more because they're looking at like, man, I ain't getting paid like that star QB over there or that cornerback over there, man. He got this deal for this much or this tight end, whatever. So it's gonna lead to more temptation of like, well, why not? Why not me talk to my friend over here at the casino and let him know that hey, so and so on the team, the tight end over here is dealing with a mother with cancer. This other guy, he kind of has a sore finger, but he's not telling anybody because he doesn't want to get benched. So now all these players who may not be making that big NCAA money, they may not have the big deals with the sponsors, but guess what? They do have inside information, and they could take that inside information and start their little group, and this is where we end up at. This is where we end up with once again these sports betting violations, and just a long cry from like the Christian foundation of sports, of YMCA that founded sports early on, and now we just got to deal with basically, this going on. So I apologize. I'm trying to pull up a story, but my computer's running slow. It's not pulling up the articles. Uh, so give me a minute. Can you guys still hear me?
I'll give you.
Okay. All right. So yeah, that's all I got on that. All right. And then, like I said, the Detroit Lions, they're just basically, there's a lot of talks around how people go in, they buy the tickets, they scalp them off. But there's an even higher. It's like the highest season tickets ever. So that's just more doing what they're supposed to do. Um, did you hear about the black student at Delta State University, the hanging?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. So apparently this was it's kind of looking like where they're sort of saying it's a hate crime because there was just some ambiguity about when the student was found. He was found hanging from a tree, but apparently they said, oh, he died in his dorm room. So I'm trying to see what the latest is on this. Okay, so now we got all right. We'll just go to ABC News, even though sometimes I don't trust ABC as long as I can throw them.
I
We
don't
could
trust
really,
them at all. I don't trust ABC News at all.
well, if anything, we could read this and see how they want to frame it up. You know, see
Mm-hmm.
what their liberal narrative thinking is. Um, but I apologize. My computer is really hot. It's just taking forever to load. But overall, while it's loading, I just hope like a benefit. I'm just either way. Like my heart is with this family. This is black, white. We don't ever want to see something like this happening. It's a parent's worst nightmare. So I'm just hoping if it if it's a hate crime, it is what it is. But now they're saying it was a suicide. But at first they're saying he was discovered hung at a tree. But then there were other reports saying he was found dead in his dorm. And I just don't know if just the way the media works, if they're trying to make this into something it's not, or if it's really a suicide. And I know, Conspiracy Brother, you had some strong thoughts on that. So maybe there's something we're missing here. Feel free to share. But they're saying it's a suicide, but let's look into who was involved. What was going on, like who were. I think we just don't have enough information. They're saying there's no foul play, and my computer is running super slow. So all right, we're just gonna have to move on. All right. All right. Cool. Moving on to foreign affairs. Um. Israel just a few days ago before, not a few days ago, but a few days before Charlie Kirk got assassinated, Israel did bomb Qatar. So I don't know, Pastor Green, if you had any thoughts on that or if you heard about that development in the Middle East about that situation.
Yeah, I heard about that, and
Mm.
none of the leaders that they went after were present.
Were there any
So
civilians killed?
I didn't hear of any civilians being killed.
Okay. Yeah, so
Could be wrong on that.
the left was really kind of riled up about that, and hopefully there's no civilians that were killed, and we'll just never know. But it is a stretch of is a part of
But I
isn't
want to. I just want to
yeah
say this about this whole
yeah.
Gaza situation.
Mm,
One of the questions that no one poses or no one says is, tell Hamas just let the hostages go.
mm,
Hamas has
I
never
agree.
challenged about that. You have people held hostage. You kill people to start this thing. And now when it's
Mm.
coming back on you, you reap what you sow. Now you want to cry murder. Let the hostages go.
Let my people go.
Let them go,
Yeah.
and the conflict will be over. But no, they don't want to do that. So when you talk about Hamas and this whole situation, you're dealing with these people are savages, just bloodthirsty savages.
Now, what do you think, Pastor Green, when people maybe push back and they'll say, well, Hamas had some ties to being funded by Netanyahu originally, and they're being used as kind of a false flag to keep Netanyahu in power. And what are your thoughts on that? Where, if anything, they might be working in tandem with Netanyahu just to keep him fighting and saying, hey, that's why I got to stay in power. What are your
No, I
thoughts
don't
on
believe that
that?
because you
Mm,
got people protesting now in Israel saying that they don't want Israel fight going against Hamas because they fear that their relatives are going to be killed.
mm,
So I don't see no validity in a statement like that.
okay. Yeah, yeah. So the conflict continues. The conflict continues. Let's see here. All right. So next up, I know there's a little thing about it hasn't really made much news. I think Z Putin of CCP said he had like a hot mic moment where basically he copped up to like I think him and Putin have talked about organ transplant. They kind of had a joke about it, and it kind of stirred up some controversy on how they there is a black market of organ harvesting,
Oh
whether
yeah.
it's
Oh
like
yeah. Hmm.
whether it's the mongrels or just people in China, even people done here. Like I was a long time organ donor for a long time, and I did some research, heard some things, and I couldn't take myself off that registry list fast enough. So obviously it's nowhere near as rampant as over there, but I think that's still a big issue alongside human trafficking because a lot of these women and children that get human trafficked, they'll either get trafficked for sex, get trafficked for labor, or if they don't meet those standards, they get killed and the organs get used. So it's just really sad, sick issue that I think enough people aren't talking about. But yeah, it definitely happens. You know,
No, it does
any
happen.
yep. And we
I
saw we
mean,
got to. Oh yeah, Pastor Green, you can go.
but when I that hot mic moment, what a lot of people are not talking about, enough people ain't talking about, is that you saw the military arsenal of China,
Yep,
and we're not ready to deal with that.
we're
And what's
not.
even we're not. And what's more, you see who who are lying. You got the Prime Minister of India, you had the North Korean President Putin,
Mm,
and the Chinese president. So these powers have already aligned themselves together, and it goes to reason. If China wants to go after Taiwan, are we going to be able to do anything about that?
probably not. Um, I think, and I'm glad we're kind of having this discussion because I think, unfortunately, I think the world leaders, all three of these gentlemen, I think they're starting to kind of understand Trump's game. I think Trump had a lot of leverage. The first term, a lot of unpredictability. What is he going to do? Trump came in hard. Second term, add throwing on the tariffs and playing this tariff game. But things are starting to level out. Prices and everything didn't shoot through the roof. Gas is still kind of high, but I think these leaders are starting to get a little bit more comfortable and kind of understanding how to work Trump or how to work around Trump. So I think Trump can only do so much peacocking, and I think the Department of renaming it the Department of War, I think was kind of a flat on his face, like, ooh, boo, look, But I think Trump ain't about to. I would love to have like him have Trump ring out the troops and have them march through the streets just like how China did. But you know what? That's going to be the crazy left of the media. They're going to spin that and go, look at Trump being a dictator. He's trying to be like a dictator. And it's like, no, he's trying to show strength. We got to show something that we have some sort of level, even though we're not on that level with China. But it's weird how even if Trump tried to show strength in the most efficient ways, we still have a left wing media who would then call him a dictator and a tyrant. Whereas, like, no, everybody else is showing their cards, and we have to show them that we're strong too. And America does, to a healthy degree, have to be feared. It doesn't mean we're trying to invade every country and start these forever wars, but we do have to show some level of strength. I think the Department of War one was short lived, just renaming it that. But if Trump ain't able to come on there and have all the strongest troops do the whole dog and pony show like China, then I think they're gonna continue to just not take Trump as serious anymore. They're getting complacent and they're kind
Well,
of seeing how Trump does it. You know?
I think the thing they're not going to take America serious anymore.
Yeah.
Forget about Trump. I mean, and that's already in effect. I mean, this is why Putin, he just totally ignoring Trump when it comes to ending, you know,
Yep.
this war.
Because they're
Because
starting to
you
learn the
see with
game.
this, yeah, you see that with these four leaders making this alliance. I mean, they already had Korean troops already in Ukraine. So they're calling, they're just thumbing their nose at America, period. And it was the Biden administration that opened up the door to all of this.
And that's where BRICS first formed. BRICS started taking off, and I don't know what the status is with BRICS or how fast it's moving, but it's just not looking good. We're losing influence. We're not. They're not. The U.S. is that. We're not. We can't just boast. There's anybody on the left or the right. We can't honestly. If you, the quote 10, 20 years ago, like U.S. is the number one superpower. You can't say that with confidence today.
Yeah,
Even
you
people
can't
on
say
the
that.
left and the right know that clearly. Like the left loves it like they're not a superpower. They love America. Even the right,
But
they can't. They won't
China
confidently say that
chose,
we're the number one
yeah.
superpower.
But like you said with the BRICS, I mean, the
Yeah.
dollar's in trouble. The dollar's going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
And Joe Biden in his 4 years, he really opened the door to that.
Yeah, changing the definition of a recession for
We've been in
one.
recession for 5 years.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I would say, yeah, I would definitely give it definitely started under Biden. I would give even Biden credit up until maybe mid 2022. That's when things really started going downhill. I mean, it really started with the Afghanistan withdrawal. That was the catalyst. And then going into 2022, we were in a recession. They want to change the definition of recession around and all that. Then Trump gets back in. They say, "Oh my God, we're in a recession." Like, motherfucker, we've been in a recession for 3 years. Excuse my French.
Yes, we have.
Lord, Jesus still working on me. So yeah. So there's that. So we'll have to see. It's not looking good. All right. Can you guys still see my screen?
Okay, now I can see it.
Okay. Got a little mixed around. All right. So NATO invoked an article against Poland. Did you hear about that going on? A few escalations. I think
Yeah,
that
well, that
happened
just goes to
right
show
after.
you. That just goes to show you. Ever since Putin and the others, they made that appearance together in China.
Mm-hmm.
They're letting Europe know. Listen, we're not afraid of you. You can't do nothing. We could just take you over any minute.
Mm-hmm. You not the boss of me.
Right. So this is what's happening. So you know, Russia knows what they're doing when they're flying into NATO airspace with those drones.
Oh yeah.
So
So and Poland, I heard, is very strong closed borders. You know. Uh,
it just remains
uh,
to be seen. But it's I really think with the 4 years of Biden, these other powers just ramped up took their opportunity to really strengthen themselves at the expense of the United States.
mm-hmm. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Hello.
Yes,
Okay. Yeah, my
I can hear
internet's
you.
lagging again, so I'm not able to. Okay. All right. Once again, guys, you're Uncomfy Truths. I'm having a little bit of some internet lag. I apologize. Um, yeah, computer running slow again. Can you see my screen?
No, I'm not seeing it.
Oh, see it now?
No, I'm still not seeing it.
Okay, I'm having some internet issues. Okay, I think try now. Uh, Conspiracy brother, might have to put my screen back on the stage. Thank you. Um, okay, so I'm waiting for this to load. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah, now I can.
Okay, cool. So could NATO trigger Article 5? So I'm going to read these two and then we can kind of move on to the next topic because I'm not as well versed on this. So this will give us, okay, good insight. So what we need to know. Poland has formally invoked NATO Article 4 crisis talks after detecting 19 Russian drones. So it's a little hard to read, but Poland invoked Article 4 of the NATO treaty on Wednesday after detecting 19 Russian drones entering its airspace, shooting down 4. The Polish move triggers consultations with NATO's 32 members when a member is under threat. Poland stopped short of invoking Article 5, which treats an attack on one ally as an attack on all. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk called the incursions, which lasted 7 hours, a large-scale provocation by Moscow. No injuries were reported. NATO leaders condemned the incursion as a deliberate test of the alliance's defenses. The Kremlin denied targeting Poland. Um, so this here, I want to read this. Nations that have invoked NATO Article 4. Turkey in 2012, after Syria shot down a Turkish jet in a mid-Syrian conflict spillover. Turkey in 2015, following terrorist attacks in Syrian conflict escalation. Poland in 2014, in response to Russia's annexation of Crimea. Turkey in 2020, due to escalating tensions in Syria, Idlib region. Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia in 2022, as mentioned, due to Russians' actions in Ukraine, and then Poland in 2022, following a missile incident near the Ukrainian border. A stray missile landed in Poland, initially raising concerns of Russian involvement. All right, so can you still hear me, Mr. Green?
Yes, I can.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Uh-oh. Hello? Hello?
I'm hearing you.
Anybody hear me?
I can hear you. I'm hearing you.
All right. Did anybody hear me or heard what I said?
I can hear you.
Uncomfy truths is what we do here. We got technical difficulties. So, just so you know. Hello? All right. I'll just keep talking. I'm not sure who's around. But I was gonna propose for Pastor Green. Once again, Putin's a threat. He's not to be messed with. But has this been NATO kicking the hornet's nest for years? After even going back 20 years, Putin said, "Hey, my only conditions for us, or really the only conditions, Putin wasn't even in power at the time, but the only reason why the Soviet Union dismantled is because they didn't want Ukraine to join NATO. So they stated Ukraine doesn't join NATO, and then NATO doesn't move any more to the east or any more to the west.
Can you hear me?
To the you know what I'm saying. NATO's not supposed to expand anymore and let Ukraine in. So are we just now under the um, are we under the karma? Are the chickens coming home to roost? Because for years we've tried to swoon Ukraine to join NATO, and we'll continue expanding NATO when Russia and Putin said that was a violation of their agreement terms. So is this sort of karma or chickens coming home to roost? Is that the question? Um, if anybody out there.
Can you hear me?
Uh, all right, so I still don't hear anybody. And somebody say something if they're there. So I just want to kind of pose that question.
Can you hear
I
me?
think it's worth talking about.
Can you hear
Apparently,
me?
got this Nepal youth uprising. So this guy gave a very kind of Hitler youth-ish vibe speech, and I think a lot of it is just the same thing. A lot of things is like, hey, they're tired of this corrupt government. Um, Once again, Gen Z, even here in Nepal, they're getting treated like you're gonna work for the rest of your life. Just be grateful. You're never gonna rent a house. You're never gonna have a house, start a family. So a lot of the same sentiments that we see like a Nick Fuentes that riles up the Gen Zs here in the U.S. is that when you ignore these babies or kids for so long, they're gonna grow up and they're gonna give you hell. So you're seeing this in Nepal, and it's just almost kind of a mirror reflection to what Nick Fuentes has been talking about. With the groypers. So that guy obviously he could be the Nepal Nick Fuentes. Who knows? And he's just only really speaking to a he's just really speaking to a grievance that a very I want to say oppressed, but a very misunderstood that feels displaced population. Uh, it's speaking to them on a grievance. Um, okay, I don't hear anything. I don't hear you guys.
Can you hear me?
Okay, I don't hear. Bad connection issues. Okay, guys, I'm going to. I don't hear anybody. I'm going to leave and come back. Hey guys, can you guys hear me?
I can.
Okay, I apologize. I couldn't. Yeah, I just couldn't hear you guys, and my signal kept lagging, so I just had to reboot my computer. Um, so you heard me the whole time when I was going through Nepal and everything.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't hear anything, so I didn't know what happened. All right, I did a lot of talking though, so I'll go ahead, Pastor Green, whatever topic, if you want to talk about Nepal or a different topic. Um, got my screen share back up. Uh, ready whenever you are.
Uh, well, I didn't know anything about Nepal.
Okay. All right. Well, I gave enough context on it. I just think
Yeah.
it's just kind of like a cautionary tale because this guy kind of looks like a Nepalese Nick Fuentes, where you're getting these people that are coming out here and speaking grievance that this Gen Z generation is going through, similar to here, where they're not making enough money. They got sold out by the boomers, and now it's like just at home, mad, living at home, and can't buy a house or start a family. So you just see some weird parallels going on there that I've noticed. And then conspiracy brother, if you could put my screen back on the stage, I apologize. Um, but until he does, we can move on to the next topic. This might be okay. There it is. Um, Want to get to religion, and really all I had on here, I think, is very fitting. Is we've been seeing a Christian revival of sorts in the wake of Charlie Kirk's death, and that's almost kind of like wow. Like I still wonder, like who would be dumb enough to kill Charlie Kirk? Because the left would at least be smart enough to think like, you know, all right, we're going to create a martyr out of this guy, and there'll be a lot more just like him. And then if even there's like a uniparty elite, maybe Zionist side that wants to do that, maybe just because he started pushing back against Israel, you're still going to create the same thing. So I'm just kind of amazed on how just the amount of love and just inspiration, record-setting church attendance, people accepting Christ. You see testimonies online. 30,000 new requests for the TPUSA chapter. So as sad as his death has been, and just sort of a shock, and really hurt how hurt has been. If anything, there's some of this that's been coming out of it. I've been hearing a lot of these stories going on. So I don't know, Pastor Green, if you've been noticing that or reading these stories and just want to speak on really the wake of his death and what that's going to do for the
Well, I
religion.
think his death has emboldened people to speak even louder and be more visible. And
Yeah.
I really think this is his death is the final coffin, nail in the coffin for the Democratic Party. I really believe that. I don't believe the Democrats
Mm.
have the chance to win another election, and I really think the midterms are going to reflect that. Because you hear a lot of people saying they will never vote Democrat again in response to how people laughed at this man's death. And the left is fully exposed. The Democrats are being fully exposed as being the Democrats. They truly are. And the fact that they don't even show no no sympathy, no remorse. I mean, you listen to AOC giving that speech that she did, just further in the divide. So I think this is going to be one of the key things that's going to bring an end to the Democratic Party as we know it. And I hope I'm right. And I yield.
Couldn't agree more, Pastor Green. They unleashed a hornet's nest unlike anything we've seen, and you just see it with testimonials online, and even I noticed the church I was visiting that attendance shot up, through the roof. So I think there is definitely this is a spiritual war, which is part of a video that I recorded earlier today, speaking on it. and just how the left doesn't know what they've done. Even though I do have some suspicions on some uniparty ties and one just a left responsible for it, the left, if anything, was the foot soldiers. They were the lapdogs that carried it out. But there are more sinister forces that want to really, really hate America, hate Christians especially. So yeah, it was just beautiful to see. You know, gives me hope because I know, Lord knows, I still have a lot of work to do to get where I'm at,
Amen.
Lord.
Yeah. Yes, we do.
Yep. All right. So a couple things. I don't know if I shared this before about a couple things going on. We get into tinfoil hat territory. So I got invited to this socialist. Well, I didn't get invited, but I was at this festival. There were some kind of lefty leaning people there, and they were passing out these socialist equality party flyers for some event. At this particular university I used to go to, at my alma mater. So part of me was wanting to go to that to be like, you know what, and I wasn't even thinking about Charlie Kirk because it was like a few days before he died, like a week before he died, and I was just like, yeah, I want to go there, just kind of see, why are these, these kids now, they're just so left wing. What's going on? Let me go there and hear what they got to say. I could maybe throw some subliminal shots and ask some questions. Um, and I just ended up having to work. Things got in the way, and then Charlie Kirk dies, and then there's this other race panel coming up. It's supposed to be a bunch of university professors, and a few days after Charlie Kirk died, it was supposed to happen. I planned to go, and then Charlie Kirk happened. So I don't know if it was right, but I just kind of, and maybe I was just still upset about his passing. I just decided not to go because I'm like, who knows if I say something and these left wings get triggered, and I'm gonna get shot in the neck. I could get punched in the face or doxxed or just, And I guess it was a little be just being like, I'm just so fed up and just kind of pissed off of what happened. But I just decided not to go. And then a part of me was like, man, I did kind of just decide, screw it. No, there's no these people, you know. So that was kind of like a little weird moment I had. A debate that didn't want to come on the show, so I spoke to that earlier. Um, and then my next topic I was going to discuss. Actually, I'm gonna frame it like this. Um, I'm gonna frame it like this, Pastor Green. Now, this Uncomfy Truth Show, obviously, everybody, for the most part, we have little avatars up. I know, obviously, with you, you're more open about, hey, this is who I am. This is kind of where I stand. Um, I wanted to propose something because once again, these left radicals, they don't play the rules the same way we do. And one thing I fear, I don't have. I want as many people to continue speaking out against the left and evil and things like that. The biggest thing I fear is that you have a lot of people, maybe, that kind of tends to be on the right, that are kind of playing checkers, where, yeah, just come out, shout out who you are, where you stand, and the more of us speak up, great. But then you have the left, who, they are part of this deep state. They work at these institutions. They work at all these different places. You don't see them come out and do a whole, this is who I am. I'm a left winger. I'm a proud Marxist. They hide that in secret. They operate in the shadows. And my biggest fear is that while we need people with the big platforms continuing to speak out and doing the things that move the culture war forward, I'm afraid, like, we also at the same time have to think like art of war, like chess, where there's people on the left, they're not all coming out and saying we're left wing communists and just stand up for what you believe in. A lot of them operate in the shadows. They do things, they're part of that very deep state that's fighting Trump at every level because we just don't know who they are. So I made a case that I want to kind of give this to you, so time, what are your thoughts on us finding ways where we can have certain people in certain places? Because once again, if some people that don't have a platform to really speak out, but they may work at a certain institution or a organization where they can leak us some documents, they could feed us information. But if they come out and say, yeah, I'm a Trump person, they just get fired. Then they kind of, and they don't really have a Facebook or nothing like that. So I kind of propose the fact is like, can we strategically find a way to have the people with the biggest platforms, the biggest influence on the right, speaking out loud and proud? I'm MAGA. But can we try and see how we could have some MAGA deep staters who maybe work at certain institutions and they could do things for us? They can help us out in different ways, whether they can give money toward the MAGA movement and different things, or just find different ways to help us out in the shadows. Is that being too is
No, I
that
think we I
me
think we should I
overthinking
think
it?
we should
You
no,
know?
I don't think we're overthinking it. I think we should do that, but I don't think we should tip our hand to the left in our endeavor to accomplish
Mm-hmm.
that. But I think we definitely should pursue it.
Well, yeah. Cause I'm just something I'm just thinking about, because obviously there's people that come on this show that may not even came on. That probably wouldn't have came on the show unless they had an avatar or use like a little avatar name. So I just kind of think about that, because you just see the left, they have their loud people on the right, the AOC, like most Americans, everyday Americans. There's people on the left who will be part of that deep state at different organizations, not even government wise, but these different companies that come out that are really woke and stuff. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of propose that to where, hey, if you can't speak out, if you still don't want to speak out, put your money where your mouth is. Put your money where your mouth should be. Like, donate money toward the causes, or you work at certain organizations, be a whistleblower. Find different ways to get involved. Hey, maybe even do a podcast where you have just avatars, kind of like we do. I'd rather have a voice out, some sort of voice out there instead of none at all. But I feel like everybody should kind of, get in where they fit in. So that's kind of that was basically my thought behind that. All right.
I'm in full
All right.
agreement.
Yep. Yep. So we got to figure out where find the best role for you. We don't want to shoehorn cookie cutter everybody in. All right. So this is our last one. And I guess for the sake of time, because my screen share keeps getting knocked out, this is my top 10 list. So we started something with Conspiracy Brother last couple shows, doing our top 10 list. And then, Pastor Green, I want to give you the challenge. If next show, if you want to give us your top 10 list of people we should be following. So this is mine. All right. So first one on the list, Bards FM. His host, Scott Kesterson. He's only on the Podbean app. So I kind of fell off of him for a while, but he's very Christian, America first. Um, this guy, I think he was like a former veteran army guy. So he puts out a lot of biblical. He brings on a lot of people biblically in the Word, different perspectives. He does great jobs of sharing different clips of what's going on, and he has criticism of Trump first. So he definitely calls out a lot of, like, when there's Zionist stuff that's going on that's antithetical with the Christian word. So I would definitely recommend Scott Kesterson. You can find him on the Podbean app. You got Anton Daniels. He's a political commentator based out of here in Detroit. So he puts out a lot of kind of culture war stuff. He's just more on the conservative side. He's also a Christian, a black conservative Christian. So some of it is kind of clickbaity. He kind of mixes that in with a little bit of the red pill stuff. So I'm not sure where he kind of is on his walk. He claims he's been married since he was 18, and you know, uh, just has a faithful wife. He got married as a virgin. They just been married for 20 some years, but he puts out pretty good stuff. Or more so culture war stuff, a little bit of red pill, manosphere stuff. Third we have is Jack Spirko. Jack Spirko, the Survival Podcast. And the Survival Podcast, I think, is a great cross between. He talks a lot about the kind of uniparty, uh, both sides of on how, like, yeah, you don't want to depend on Democrats or Republicans. So he puts out really good stuff. Can you guys still hear me? Okay.
Yeah, you coming in and out though.
Okay. All right. Just let me know, because yeah, I keep getting a notice every few minutes. I gotta probably get an internet speed test done. Every few minutes I get a notice saying like internet bandwidth weak or lagging.
Yeah.
Um, so if you just don't hear me for a while, just say, hey, conservative brother, we can't hear you. Um, Next, Bevel and Betty, and obviously Pastor Green. You already know what I'm talking about. Bevelyn's out of New York as well, right? She was from New York. She was a New
No, she's
Yorker.
not from New York, but she her
In New
her
Jersey.
major case was in New York.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought she had that New York accent. So
Mm.
yeah, I've been following Bevelyn since 2020, 2021, when she spoke out, for the Proud Boys and a lot of the stuff going on in MAGA, and she was throwing the black paint on the BLM mural downtown and just being so, just, yeah, she was way ahead in her Christian journey than I was. And I just see her be so bold, go out here, and then she'll get banned and get her channels wiped off of YouTube over and over again. And I remember she first appeared in an HBO Vice segment where they interviewed black conservatives. And they try to treat them like they were these weird animals, like rare animals out of the woods. That's back when I was still watching Vice, and just so liberal leaning, where they'll just kind of frame things up like, oh, these black conservatives at the White House with Trump, during his first term. So I remember early on from that. I think that was before COVID. And yeah, just to see her journey, what she went through, that persecution she went through, the those other nine pro-lifers going to jail, and then she got out. I did a whole video on that. We celebrated it. So yeah, and I think she's making her rounds. She's not so much doing as much content creation, but she's making her rounds. I think she did a recent women's conference, and she does her interview rounds, but I don't think she's putting out as much as her original content. But I'm just great. I'm glad to see her kind of win her fight against the enemy, and she's a testimony, definitely inspiring. So
She is.
yeah, she's a real one. Uh, Andy Frisella, who I talked about, you guys have heard me talk about him on the show, feature him on the show. Like I said, he literally has a philosophy called the Big Show. So if he ever runs for office, you're gonna get a really good hard on crime candidate. Because he stands on business, calls balls and strikes, calls out both political parties. Started out as he still is like a multi-millionaire business owner, owns multiple businesses out of St. Louis, and they had a big business podcast show. And then with COVID and all the corruption, he overhauled it and turned it into a political show to talk about these topics. So really good stuff for Andy Frisella at the Real AF podcast. Next, got to give it up for Jason Whitlock, former sports commentator from ESPN, Fox Sports. Used to work as a columnist for Kansas City Star.
Yeah, I'm very
And then
familiar with Jason.
Jason, yep. And then he kind of went on his slow Christian walk while he was in LA. And then eventually he just kind of left it behind, and now he's in Nashville doing his thing. I had the opportunity to meet this gentleman at the Roll Call 3.0 they had in, I believe it was March. So it was great meeting him in person finally, and just being around a bunch of Christian men, really just trying to just get better, and really just build that support net. So really enjoyed that. with Jason Whitlock. This is his Fearless channel. So he talks more sports. He also talks on social commentary stuff. And then he has a Harmony channel, and that's where he gets more into the culture war, mainly politic topics. But even his sports commentating, still great stuff. Because he's been doing it for like 30 some years. So even if you're not like a huge political guy, but if you're Christian and you like sports, he's definitely your guy because he adds that biblical aspect that's lacking in sports because you can kind of tell how he exposes like Stephen A. Smith and the whole ESPN, just how woke and how the Marxist agenda is really infiltrated sports media. He calls all that out, and I love it. Tim Pool, who I've talked about on the show, has a big show he runs over there. And he was someone like I mentioned before. He did a lot of on the ground stuff, covering the Occupy Wall Street movement. So he talked a lot about how that basically that movement had controlled demolition because it basically got destroyed by identity politics, lack of planning, and really just splintering off from their focus on the bankers in the top 5%. So he does a great job exposing that. And then his years traveling around, working for Vice, working for other companies, where, like I said, he's encountered Antifa. He's encountered all these different far left groups. So between him, he talks about what they learned in that book, by Saul D. Linsky, and he just exposes a lot of the psychology beyond the modern left. It calls out the right a bit too, but he's a little bit more in the center. So puts out good stuff. Do dissidents? I haven't found a lot of their stuff lately, but they have a lot of great stuff as far as they're more kind of center lefty. I would say they're left of center, and they basically have really good analysis. They call out the woke stuff, the culture war, crazy stuff. They call out maybe some things that Trump does as well that's off. But they're fair. I would call that they're fair. They're libertarian, center left. But the two guys that kind of run the show, they do a lot of collaboration with Jimmy Dore. They guest hosted for Jimmy Dore's show for a while. So they do a bit of deep dive stuff, but for the most part, they do like general commentating. So I appreciate it. Candace Owens, enough said. I think Candace Owens is among the GOAT. And I would say, by the way, this list isn't in order. So this isn't like a particular list that's in order from best to worst. So Candace Owens is still one of the GOATs out there. All the investigations she's doing, all the heat she's taken, even on top of even the recent Charlie Kirk situation, and she having her own theories, which she's allowed to have, and just based on her knowing Charlie and being in that world, a lot of it does have merit. So while a lot of the right doesn't like her, I think she's just been as consistent on Christ is King. I know she's a Catholic, but she's Christ is King, and she kind of stands on the word of Jesus. So I still respect that, especially how she used to be like on the liberal left, as well. Years back, 10 years back. And then finally, I got Matt Kim. So Matt Kim, this was a guy I just wasn't sure about when I started following him. I thought he was another plant. Kind of went viral when he did this video a few months back talking about usury and how a lot of kind of the Zionist Jewish community, it's like an open secret where they get zero interest loans, and they keep it in their community, and our community in the meantime we get killed with interest rates. So he kind of went viral for that, but as more I follow him, he says he's a Christian, but at the same time, he does a great job at just kind of opening up your mind to to not always thinking Republican, Democrat, black or white, woke or unwoke. He kind of has you question everything, not where you're believing like everything from flat Earth to all this stuff, but he basically does a great job of looking at events when they happen, not reacting right away, and giving you logical questions to think about to where you're not like, are you falling for the okey doke? Are you falling into tribalism? Let's take a step back and look at, okay, who would benefit from this and how would they benefit from this and how long or how far along would they benefit from it? So I think he does a great job at doing that. So this is Conservative Brothers, my official top 10 list that I got, and then I'll just give a couple honorable mentions, and we're gonna wrap up the show. All right, so honorable mentions, of course, Charlie Kirk. I started following him in 2020, 2021. I fell off of him a bit when he kind of was a little more pro-Israel as far as like not just calling out some basic stuff as far as Netanyahu and whatnot. But I still stuck by him. And even when he started questioning and getting pushed back, like him and Megyn Kelly would get pushed back, I kind of saw like, wow, like he still is really America first, because he's willing, even in the heat of losing donors, like he's still willing to like, he called out like leftist blacks. He's called out LGBTQ. He's called out the extreme Islam. He's also called out secular Jews. If you look back, like his boldness is where he calls out every group. But guess what? We're all humans. We're all childs of God. So people who have this pedestal, well, I'm part of this group, or I'm this skin color, you can't question me. Charlie Kirk doesn't allow for any of that BS. So looking back, he called out everybody. Ramon Jackson, he runs Souls to the Polls. That's part of the 180 Church Initiative, Pastor Lorenzo Souls Church. So I've had a chance to meet him a couple of times, attend lectures. I share with you guys a few of his lectures on our group. So he definitely puts out great content. Leans a little bit on maybe the left side of things, but he calls out a lot of the corruption here in the inner city of Detroit, and how the Democrats are screwing over, a lot of the Detroit city residents when it comes to the voting corruption. Like they have this thing called drainage, sewer drainage fees that Detroit residents pay like 2-3 times more than an average resident outside of the city. So he calls out a lot of great local municipal stuff, at least while it's kind of more based in Detroit, or the examples are centered around Detroit. If you just listen to it, you'll get a lot out of it as far as like, wow, okay, I need to look into that for my city, or I didn't think about that, or I need to talk to this city controller person, or the municipal, person over this. So even though he's talking about the problems in Detroit and how they're combating it locally, the local corruption, there'll be things you could take away and be like, all right, wow, okay, let me take that template, apply it to where I'm at. So that's kind of the great thing about Ramon Jackson, that is. Jimmy Dore show, like I mentioned, that was part of Conspiracy Brothers Top 10. He hosts a show with Kurt Metzger. They just call out a lot of the insanity of the left. They call out the right as well. Dr. Boyce Watkins, he was kind of my gateway drug to waking up to the Democrat Party, even though he's more on the black left side. And he calls out the Democrats. He doesn't identify as Democrat, but he kind of has a lot of the black racial idolatry, where he's not exactly, I don't think he's Christian. I think he said his father was a pastor, but he doesn't seem at all religious. But he opened me up to a lot of, taking me out of my default liberal mindset. Gothic, she's an interesting lady. She's kind of more of like she is kind of like a black sort of gothic hipster sort of vibe chick, but she woke up to a lot of the stuff being left wing and woke, so she calls out a lot of that stuff. I don't know where she is with the spiritual walk, but she calls out a lot of the leftism going on. But she has like she has like a quirky personality, and I think for a lot of people who are maybe more on the hipster side or really lean left, they'll find her content pretty informative. I didn't think I'd have these names on here: Tariq Nasheed and Umar Johnson. But like I said, I did follow them for a season. And like I said, while they're secular, they're more like black leftists, Marxists even. They still called out the Democrat Party. They called out a lot of the corruption. And it was once again a gateway drug that got me over that hump. Can you guys still hear me okay?
I'm hearing you. I can hear you.
Okay, I hear a little feedback in the background. I don't know. All right, so yeah, so even though Tariq Nasheed, Umar Johnson, I can't even stomach going to their channels today. You know, Umar Johnson, I remember following this guy 10 years ago along with Boyce Watkins. I donated money to the school. Ain't even open 10 years later. You know, I just feel duped. But any minute now, it's going to open up. You know, but I still credit them for at least getting me over that hump of like, you know, look, not just trusting Democrats. Ian Carroll. So Ian Carroll was a guy, he came to fame during COVID. He just started getting on TikTok, going down the grocery aisle, explaining what's in our food and what corporations are benefiting or own the companies that benefit from it, all that stuff. So he linked up with he linked up with Candace Owens recently, and they've been doing some really good investigative stuff. He calls out, I feel like he leans center left, but he calls out a lot of stuff, the craziness on the left. He's spoken openly about having Christian faith, and you know, he calls out the right as well. Sabby Sab, I don't follow as much. Her streams are really long. She used to be kind of she was part of the kind of the Bernie camp, Bernie Sanders camp. Bernie's not a Bernie bro, like a Bernie sis, I guess. So even on her YouTube page, she still describes herself as a leftist. I would say she's just kind of more. I know she's not Christian or anything, but I think she's kind of more of a center, maybe light socialist. You know, she's big into like community aid and, you know, calling out the Democrats. She calls out Hillary, AOC, all the crazy wokeness going on. But at the end of the day, I think, you know, she would probably settle. I could see her voting for Zohran Mamdani. You know, I feel like she kind of has some sentiments that will lean towards Zohran Mamdani. So I'm a little weary, but she still put out a lot of great stuff, calling out Democrats like back in the day, like her and Jimmy Dore called out Democrats for not doing the force the vote in 2021, which Nancy Pelosi, they forced the vote. They could have had universal health care or whatever it was. And, you know, 2 years later, Republicans, Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene, they did the same thing. Well, Lauren Boebert, Marjorie sided with uh, Kevin, who was the name of the Speaker of the House before? Who was the Speaker of the House before Mike Johnson got in? He was from Bakersfield, California. Kevin, I forgot his name.
I
But
can't think of
anyway,
his last name, but I know you're talking about.
yeah, he was the one who was forced out. He was forced out when the House did that, you know, thing in early 23. So, you know, so she calls out how the squad, like the AOCs and all that, and the Cory Bushes, they didn't do the same thing. So she's long scolded Democrats and, you know, called out their selling out and just becoming part of the establishment. Even though I think she would lean more toward a Zohran Mamdani, which I'm a little leery of her now, but she did great work in the past as far as calling out the Democrats and the establishment, the AOCs, Bernie Sanders, and all that. Del Bigtree, the Highwire show. This was a guy who was from LA. Well, he came up from a liberal home in Boulder, Colorado. Went to Los Angeles as a filmmaker. He worked on the TV show called The Doctors as a producer. And when he just started asking too many questions, having people on to talk about vaccines and how bad it is, just from what he discovered, he ended up having to leave that industry because they were like, no, 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 you don't talk about that. You know, so Del Bigtree, he launched the Highwire show. I think it's been going on 4 or 5 years. They've been calling out the COVID madness, calling out the vaccine injury. He does a lot of shows. He has a nonprofit called ICANN Network, and Network. And there's an Esquire attorney named Aaron Suri that even before COVID, 5, 6, 7 years ago, Aaron Suri was working with Del Bigtree to get transparency on vaccine studies. They figured out there was a study done at the University of Michigan 2018, 2019 that showed that vaccinated children, in fact, are more unhealthy and more susceptible to disease. They buried the study. It was a conflict of their special interests, and now they're uncovering that now. So Del Bigtree's been in the fight against vaccines, you know, probably not as long as RFK, but he's been in that fight against that health corruption in the vaccine industry for a long time. So his shows are long. I don't get to listen to him all the time, but it's packed with a lot of content. And like I said, the attorney works with Aaron Suri, does a lot of good work. All right, I know we're getting all right. Almost done here. Brother Riza Islam. He is part of the Nation of Islam. Once again, we don't agree on religions, but he was a guy that's been calling out. I don't know what he's doing lately, but I haven't following that much. But once again, he called out the lockdowns, the vaccine mandates, all that stuff. Farrakhan and Nation of Islam, they've been calling that out for 20, 30 years. Even if you're a Christian and don't agree with them, Nation Islam, they've been the one always ringing the alarm. Every time, once in a while, I see them on the corner, I'll buy some fruit and I'll get one of their papers. They've always been talking about the vaccines and all that. They've been on that forever. So he's put out good stuff. He even spoke at the one of the stop defeat the mandates on the Capitol a couple years ago as well. So yeah, that is my official top 10 list. I cheated a bit with my honorable mentions, but I think they were worth mentioning. But y'all at least know my top 10 list right here. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and I guess we'll end it with you, Pastor Green. I know it's getting late. We can wrap it up with any of your thoughts on the 9/11 attacks. Obviously, the 24th anniversary came and went. Obviously, Charlie Kirk assassination took the winds out of the sails for that, but I think it's still worthy of us remembering that, especially since I know you were on ground zero that day. So, yeah, lastly, any 9/11 thoughts? And we can maybe we can probably say the Charlie Kirk conspiracy theories for next show. That's not going anywhere. So we could just probably just end the show with 9/11. Whatever you want to share about it.
Well, as far as 9/11 goes, it just breaks my heart to see that basically we forgotten about it.
Yeah.
It's like the Kennedy assassination. The longer time goes by, the less you talk about it. And to
Mm-hmm.
see, as I said, to see these pro-Hamas demonstrations in America, it just spits in the face of all of those who died in 9/11 and those who serve. And I think it's a travesty to allow Hamas
Mm-hmm.
protesters to even live in this country, let alone demonstrate. And I end it with that. I yield.
Yeah. Yeah. I know it's probably a tough subject, and yeah, because we had 24 years ago, we had Mayor Rudolph Giuliani clean the city up. Did so much great for the city. A lot of people, well, he did stop and frisk, and it's like, well, at the end of the day, it got the job done and cleaned up. And we don't have anything like that stop and frisk today. But was there a time where it was necessary? Of course. And Rudolph Giuliani, he didn't become a dictator. He didn't like leave that law in forever or say he never will leave office. But it's worth having that conversation. And now I look at New York. Like I said, I don't have obviously, Pastor Green, you're from there. I don't have the same relationship. My sister lived there for a few years, and I've visited there a few times. But I've always respected, at least, for that city, and to kind of see it where it might be going the way of Democrat socialist for mayor, and Zoran Mandani. If he gets in there, it's just gonna break my heart because we're just gonna get worse. But I think we endure 9/11. We endured and got past. I won't say got past that, but we're built tough and we found a way to unite. So I feel like if there's anything we can try and unite in more than ever, even in the wake of this Charlie Kirk tragedy, is that we can just remember, like, hey, look after one another, try and be better, and just try and keep that American spirit alive. So even if we need Charlie Kirk to kind of help us keep that American spirit alive, and you know help us, remember 9/11 as well. And now these two events are for better or worse, they're tied together now. So I don't know if there's a weird irony or poetic justice in that, but Charlie Kirk was America. I mean, I couldn't think of a better example of him. So in a weird way, like Charlie Kirk and 9/11 are tied in a way. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't have all the answers. But yeah, that's all I got. So Pastor Green, we can go ahead and just close the show out whenever you're ready, and
Yes.
just pray us out. It's late. So.
Yes. Yes. And dear Lord, we just thank you for this time that we had, Lord, to just share our views and our expressions. And I pray, Lord, that the ears of many will be open and that the eyes will be open too. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.